All right, good evening, everyone. It's now 6 p.m. on Thursday, July 28th, 2022. And this is the regular meeting, monthly meeting, the July meeting of the Harmony CDD Board. And we welcome everybody here today and appreciate your attendance. We're going to start with a quick roll call of the existing members. Carol Castle. Dan Leet.
Here.
Teresa Kramer is here. We have 3 members and we'll be looking to add to that this evening. Thank you, everyone. Also in attendance, we have our district manager, Angel Montagna and Brett Perez by Zoom. We also have Sean, Israel, and he is also with Infomark, and he's going to be subbing in for an in-person Angel today. What we want to start with, a little change. We're going to wait just a moment for audience comments. So at our last regular meeting in May, we selected a new board member to fill the seat of Steve Berube, who resigned at the last meeting due to leaving the neighborhood and moving to another area. So we did select Dane Short, who is here with us tonight, but he needs to be sworn in. So at this time, we'll go ahead and swear him in.
Ask you to read the oath of office for the state. We'll start with this one.
All right. I do solemnly swear that I will support, protect, and defend the Constitution and government of the United States and the state of Florida. That I am duly qualified to hold office under the Constitution of the state, and that I will well and faithfully perform the duties of supervisor of Harmony CDD, on which I am now about to enter, so help me God. More than that.
And then you'll read the top part of Harmony.
Okay. I, Dane Short, a citizen of the state of Florida and of the United States of America, and being employed by or an officer of the Harmony Community Development District and a recipient of public funds as such employee or officer, do hereby solemnly swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the state of Florida, and as a recipient of public funds, I will faithfully, honestly, and impartially discharge the duties devolving upon me in the office of supervisor.
All right. Welcome to the Harmony CDD. And one final question for you. We'd like to ask, do you elect to take compensation?
Yes.
All right. Excellent.
All right, wonderful. So we have our newest board member, Dane Short. Welcome, Dane.
Welcome.
Thank you. And thank you.
All righty. Also, at this point, we have a new addition to the Infomark, which is our district management team, Brenda Burgess. Some of you will, I know Carol does, some of you will remember her. She was with
Severn Trent.
yes, Severn Trent way back when, one of our first district management firms. She's got an in-depth knowledge of Harmony. She's been with Celebration for the last number of years, but is now returning to Harmony's team, where she will be working with us. She's online now. Brenda, can we see you? I don't know if your picture is showing up.
Hi, this is my office. Hello.
Oh, wonderful, Brenda. Thank you so much. And she will be actually taking minutes as we are working. We're working to streamline our minute production methodology and get them in good shape and out to everybody much earlier than they have been. So we look forward to having her help us do that and many other things that she's going to help us with. Thank you, Brenda.
Super. Thank you. Good to see you all. Hi, Carol.
Nice. Welcome back, I should say.
Yes, I have been here for 26 years, so I've got just a minute or two of experience. So good to be back.
Wonderful. The next item on our agenda is our audience comments. During this time, this is a time for members of our audience to come forward and offer any comments on items, whether it be on our agenda or not. And it's not a time for back and forth. It's a time for your opinion, your thoughts, and your concerns for Harmony. So do we have anybody interested in providing audience comments tonight? Okay, I see.
Well,
I just have a correction. I'm
Step.
Marilyn Ashmower, and I just have a correction. You said our next meeting is Thursday, August 15th, and August 15th is a Monday.
Oh, well, we need to correct that. So we normally have our meetings. Thank you so much for pointing that out, Marilyn. We normally have them on Thursdays. This is a special meeting to meet the timelines for the budget public workshop, public hearing. And we will be doing that then on a Monday, as you pointed out. Thank you. Okay, anybody on Zoom have an audience comment?
yes, please. This is Nancy Snyder, and I'd like to welcome Dane and also Brenda. Brenda, you answered a whole lot of questions for me when I was on the board at the same time you were. And also thank you to Dan Leet, who makes this so possible for me to attend the meetings because of the Zoom and everything he does during the meeting. I really appreciate it.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Nancy. Any other audience comments? Okay, hearing none, we will move on to our next item on the agenda on our new business, which is the acceptance of Mr. Scarborough's resignation. As you all know, you've gotten a copy of Mike Scarborough's resignation from the board, and at this time, the board will need to accept that resignation.
Move to accept.
I have a motion and a second to accept that resignation. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Hearing none, his resignation is accepted. Next item then would be consideration of appointment for the unexpired term of office for seat 2, which was previously Mr. Scarborough's seat. And we do have an applicant for that. We had a couple of applicants, but one had withdrawn, one was not qualified. And we do have a third applicant who is still in the offing, and that's Miss Joellen Phillips. Do any of the board members have any questions of Miss Phillips?
She and I have had a conversation, so I'm comfortable with her understanding of the CDD and her potential role on the board.
Wonderful.
And I'll say, just in recognition that she's already gone through the process with the county supervisor of elections and qualifying for the upcoming election, then absolutely it'd be in everyone's interest to get her on as soon as possible.
All right. Any other comments or questions?
You've been here for a while?
Yesterday is a year since I moved into my house.
Yeah, how are you enjoying it so far?
It's too hot.
Where are
As long as the meetings and the air conditioning, I'm very happy to come.
you, where are you from?
I lived in Jensen Beach, about 2 hours south of here, a community
Okay.
called Nettles Island.
Okay,
My daughter lives here, so I moved up to be closer to them.
all right. Good deal. Thanks.
I think she lives on your street, actually.
It's a good street.
Oh, no, not, no.
Oh, I was
I'm
about to
sorry,
say.
I haven't- Never mind, I really don't know a lot of people yet.
No, that's fine. We'll get you introduced. All right. If there are no other questions, I would entertain a motion to,
Move to approve Joe Phillips to fill the unexpired term of office for seat number 2 for the Harmony CDD Board of Supervisors.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Passes unanimously. All right.
Chairman, if I can,
Yes.
this is Angel, I thought Mrs. Phillips was going to be on Zoom. I had emailed her the forms so we could do virtually. Sean only had one copy, but just Sean, have her read the same thing that Dane read, and she has the forms in her inbox and she can sign, and I will get those notarized.
All right. So if you'd like to step up to the microphone here and read both of these oaths of office.
Thank you, and I'd apologize.
If you'll stand next to this mic first, and then we will dawn you with that one.
All right. I do solemnly swear that I will support, protect, and defend the Constitution
and government of the United States and of the state of Florida, that I am duly qualified to hold office under the Constitution of the state, and that I will well and faithfully perform the duties of supervisor of Harmony CDD. Just go on in. I, Joellen Phillips, a citizen of the state of Florida and of the United States of America, and being employed by or an officer of the Harmony Community Development District and a recipient of public funds as such employee or officer, do hereby solemnly swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the state of Florida, and as a recipient of public funds, I will faithfully, honestly, and impartially discharge the duties devolving upon me in the office of supervisor.
Wonderful. You did very well.
Welcome to Harmony
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
And so one final question, would you like to elect to take compensation? Which is up to $200 a meeting and up to $4,800 per year.
Well, I'll say yes for now, and we'll see. If I have any expenses, then I won't.
Excellent.
All right.
Okay, understood.
So put that on your mask, I think, like Dane's got it on. And then this is the on and off button right there. So do you want to test it?
Testing. Oh, I have to
No,
press
just-
it to test?
Yeah, it has to be, you see, have to
It-
see the green light.
Yeah.
Yeah.
okay.
And
So
you
it
don't
should
have
be
to
on.
speak into that.
Yeah, it's
You've
the
got your mic.
microphone.
Oh, okay.
You got it.
I should have had my grandkids teach me before I came. Oh, I have to sit there now?
Well, yes, ma'am. You are official.
And then, Joe, you can put the microphone if you have a pocket or
Okay.
on your
Well, I
pads or
want to
whatever.
get my note, I was gonna take notes tonight, so I have to get smart.
Let me check.
Okay,
I've got
while we
both
are
people connected right
checking
now.
on the ongoing problem,
Oh. Yeah, looks good here.
okay. Have we handled everything or are we still?
I think we're good here.
Okay. All right, our next item on our agenda, we did an RFQ, request for qualifications for an attorney. So we have Mr. Michael Eckert with Kutak Rock here. Mr. Eckert, if you'd like to join us.
Stand over here, that way y'all can see me if that's.
Yeah.
okay.
Yes, the
We need-
microphone is right here,
Oh,
Mr.
okay.
Eckert, so that will help catch it for the meeting,
Okay.
minutes of the meeting. If you'd like to pull a chair up, that
Sure.
would be fine.
Sure, thank you. Mike or Michael, either one's fine. I work with Q-Tech Rock they're out of Tallahassee right now is where the office is. I actually live in St. Augustine and live and work out of St. Augustine, and that's where my office is. I've been practicing since 1996. The first 6 years of my career, I represented cities and schools in Ohio, as well as did some employment litigation. In 2003, I moved down to Tallahassee and took a job with Hopping Green and Sam's, and we represented numerous community development districts throughout the state. And I've been working with community development districts pretty much nonstop since 2003. I do have districts that I work with that are around this area, around the Tampa area, around Orlando, working on the new Edgewater project that's over off the Turnpike. And so we're down in this area quite a bit. We have many attorneys in Tallahassee that just do community development districts. And one of the things that's enabled us to do is to really make things more efficient for our boards. I would say most questions that we get are not questions that we need to go and research. They're questions that we've run across before. And that helps provide a pretty economical approach to the practice. Certainly, the other thing too is we have systems in place in terms of real estate when we're talking about, a district, takes on property at various points in time throughout its maturity. We have a running list of each time a plat goes down, what's dedicated, and then on that list, we also, what is the date the deed was actually delivered to the district, so we have that. So at any point in time, we can look at that and say, what does the district own? What should the district own? And what easements is the other thing, is we usually have a list of easements, because easements can be created by your plat, your HOA documents, or just, regular, just regular recorded documents. So I'd be happy to answer any questions that anybody has, but certainly, it's something we are very interested in helping you out if you think it's a good fit.
Wonderful. Okay. So at this point, I'll look to the board for any questions for.
Sure. What would you say, and I know that it's all over the place and it depends on what's going on with the CDD,
Right.
but what would be your typical monthly billing?
It would depend a lot on the CDD. I have some where my typical monthly billing is probably $750. And that would be like a Falcon Trace in Orange County, which has a recreation center and a lake. That's what the CDD owns. The HOA takes care of all the extra lakes and roads and things like that aren't owned by the county. So that's probably $750 to $1,000. I have Harbor Bay, which is on Tampa Bay, and it's connected by canals, and we just replaced 7 miles of seawall. And those bills are $10,000 to $12,000 a month. So in a mature district with good management and good engineers, which you have here, because I've worked with your engineer as well as your managers, something like this is probably, $2,500 to $3,000 a month would be my best guess. But that's just based on the little information I have about you. If you have special projects like cleanup projects and things like that, then those costs are going to increase. But on a routine, just dealing with regular maintenance items, probably around that $3,000 mark is what I would think.
Have you spent any time reviewing our previous billings from our attorney so that you could understand what kind of issues we've been dealing with?
I looked some, certainly I looked in your agenda package. You have a lot of real estate focused issues that were in there in terms of determining property ownership and things like that. I know they've been working on that. I know from the last time I was here, there were some questions regarding easements and who, whether the easements were valid and who they were with. So, those types of real property issues, sometimes you have to dig in a little bit more, and those will be more expensive to try to figure out. But, I would say those are really the issues that I've seen you have. I mean, most of the other stuff is, maintenance, maintenance type proposals for landscape and things of that nature, nothing out of the ordinary.
Vendor contracts, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and we have, I wouldn't call them forms, but, when we have a landscape contract, we have a landscape contract that we start from. And typically, we would suggest anytime you have something that's going to be subject to a competitive bid, that the form of the contract that the district wants and requires be in the RFP. So when somebody submits their bid, they're bound to that contract at that point.
Okay, great. Dan, do you have any questions?
Not at this time.
Okay, Dane?
Seems like there could be some reasonable cost in transitioning from one law firm to another. Like, is there any way to really get a ballpark on there, or is it just nobody knows?
Well, I would say the first thing I do is I would reach out and talk to your attorney. And we would coordinate what kind of documents they have that are electronic, what kinds are paper. But I mean, there's a duty to turn over all public records. That's what the duty is for all attorneys in Florida when there's a transition. When I get those records, I don't make it a practice that I'm going to go sit in my office for a week and read everything and try to get up to speed. What I will do is I will talk to each board member, I will talk to your manager, and I will talk to your engineer and say, what are the issues you guys are dealing with today? And then I will kind of learn, through that process, what are the issues I really need to be focused on? And are there any historical records I should get to understand how do I deal with this issue today? But I've never thought it would be productive to just pour through records to try to understand all the historical things that have happened in a district. I just don't think it's a good use of resource.
I have another question,
Mhm.
and you may have this question as well.
Okay.
So you understand that we are trying to determine whether there are deeds that or parcels that were deeded to us that were incorrectly recorded, not recorded, what would be your, the steps you would take to help us figure that out?
Well, first of all, I would see what work you've done on that already. And I would look at that and determine where should you go next. So if a deed was delivered but not recorded, which means it was accepted by the board, and typically there'd be a record of acceptance by the board at a board meeting, but it doesn't match what's recorded, we would try to track that down. And so the other thing too, is if we have a question, who owns what within a certain area, I mean, certainly we would enlist a title company to do a title search. That's going to be more efficient than us trying to, do that on our own. We would get that title search, we'd review it, and then we would try to track down whatever documents we needed to at that point in time. I've not had a situation where I have a deed delivered where it wasn't recorded within a certain amount of time, because that's, some liability for the attorney for not recording that quickly.
Mhm.
So, because that's really what puts people on notice that there's been a conveyance. So,
Joellen? Okay. Not a problem. Just some of the things you've gone over your background a bit. So you currently represent how many CDDs? Do you-
probably right now about 21.
21.
But I have a contract attorney who supports me. She works out of Tallahassee. I have a paralegal that's dedicated to me. I have an associate who's not in our presentation because she doesn't start until August 15th. And then Wes Haber is also one of my partners who I've worked with for probably 15 years. And we both, all we do are special districts.
All right.
So Wes would be, wouldn't say backup, but he would be number two, and we would kind of split the work. But my goal would be, and my goal always is with all my districts, is I work on the district on the stuff where somebody else that is a lower billing rate can't. So if it's complex, then I'm probably going to be the one to work on it, and that's going to be more efficient for you than me giving it to a first-year associate who isn't as familiar, hasn't seen the issue before or anything like that. Kate John is her name. She's going to start August 15th, and this is one of the districts I would want her to work on. And her billing rate's more like in the 260 to 265 range. So, but again, it would be more, contracts, things like that she can do. That'd be cheaper for you than me doing it, or my paralegal would do it. In fact, my paralegal drafts most of our contracts, sends them to me. I mark them up, review them and everything. That's usually the most efficient way for boards to operate.
Great. How do we work with, we've seen from other attorneys a flat fee for meetings, which includes their travel and
Sure.
everything. Do you do anything like that, or are you comfortable, being on Zoom? Do you prefer to be in person at the meetings? How do you handle that?
My preference is that the most economical way that's actually effective. So if you have a board meeting and it's, maintenance contracts and a couple of really routine items, I don't think it makes any sense for me to be here. I'm happy to be here. And I can do that. That's not a problem. But in my opinion, if I only have 3 or 4 minutes of speaking in a meeting, doesn't make much sense for the board to bear the cost of me being here. Our firm policy is that we have to attend every meeting. We don't have any districts we work with that where we are just kind of on call, and that they'll call us and that we're not at the meeting, because one of the things in Florida is, as a public body, if you go astray and you get advice from your counsel, no, you can't consider that, you do this, then it's presumed that you followed the attorney's advice when you reached your decision at the end of the day. It's not total protection, but it's pretty good protection. And a lot of times we can hear something and kind of right the ship a little bit. And usually it's not anything intentional. It's just somebody needs to say, okay, well, you can't consider that in your decision-making process. So I would suggest that if there's a meaningful participation for me, that I be here in person. If it's not, I would suggest Zoom would be perfectly fine.
Okay.
But again, it's up to the board. I mean, I have some boards that say, we want you here 2 times a year. And I have others that say, we want you here no matter what. So.
And what's the cost? What do you estimate the cost of attendance in person would be?
Attendance in person, so trying to think, I'm coming from St. Augustine usually. So I would say if you're looking at a flat fee, it's probably going to be, in that $2,000, $2,200 range
Mhm.
for travel and attendance at the meeting.
And without travel?
Without travel, it would just be hourly. So if you have an hour-long meeting and I'm in my office for an hour, it would be $395. So that's what I'm saying. I think, especially with what we've gone through in the last few years, and, I've done bond validation hearings of $100 million by Zoom. And the judge is fine with it, I'm fine with it, the public's fine with it. So if the board's comfortable with it, it usually will save you some money for us to do that. But, things like budget hearings, when you're raising assessments on people, those are typically the meetings I would say that we need to be at, or if you're having a conflict with the vendor,
Mhm.
that would be something we would want to be here for.
Okay, great. I did see the one thing you have in your agreement, that if there is a dispute, then you will be in Leon County.
Yeah, that's our former agreement. We can change that. Doesn't
Okay,
matter.
okay, because I would hate for us to all have to trump up to
Well,
Tallahassee,
I'd hate
although
for
I'd
us-
love to
I'd hate
go
for us to go to any
visit.
court.
Well, hopefully that will never be a concern.
Yeah, but
That's-
no, the venue thing it's not a problem to change that.
Okay, great. That's great. Any other questions from any of the board members? Okay. At this point in time,
I think we should just have a discussion.
I'm
okay,
gonna go sit over there if that's okay.
that will be great. We will pull it back to the board.
I'm sure if I could get a chance to respond.
Certainly. I think we asked for a submittal. Did you want to submit, or?
As your attorney, and you knew what my rates were, I've always said I would work with it. It's not necessary for me to. submit
Okay.
anything. So I was just.
Come on up here
Yeah, I just
and,
like to give some of my feedback.
Sure.
Sure, thank you. Good evening, everyone. It's
Good
only in the
evening.
public sector that you get to go through this for the whole world to see. And don't be awkward. I'm not awkward. This is fine. We're just talking. They're just trying to make a business decision. So I appreciate that, guys, and appreciate what you had to say. So just some things real quick is we have said through the years, as you know, that we'll work with any fee structure you want. We went from an hourly, which was less than his paralegal hourly rate. We went from that to a flat that you requested in our last communication. We said we would change that again. So, at best, the price is a wash. We like to be at the meetings in person. We think that's very important. Zoom, it has a purpose. It's not as good a purpose as being here, seeing your body language, looking wherever you want to, not having to rely on things getting messed up with technology. If you miss court because you can't get on Zoom, that's a non-appearance, and that's important. It's interesting. We have very similar processes. Sylvia in my office, as you know, took some criticism because she drafts most of the contracts at the first blush. It's the same thing you just heard. It's because it's a standard practice. I've never missed a meeting. My firm hasn't. And so, and then when it comes to the issue of the property being recorded, he outlined the same process that we outlined. We just added the step and took the time to talk to an expert in this arena. When he says that he keeps a going record of transfers and conveyances, we do the same thing, but there has never been a duty for us to record anything. It's always the developer's attorney that has that duty. And we've done this search and we find no evidence in the record that there's a deed out there that you guys should have that hasn't been recorded. So to large scale, even that is a non-issue that doesn't really require a lot of time and effort until you have some evidence that there has been something that's amiss in your property records, which you don't at this point. So I think, we will work with you as we always have. We believe that, our job, my law partner, Kinza Van Assender, through the years, we're applying a trade. It's no different than being a plumber. Our tools are different. Chapter 190 is not super duper complex in the world of law. When he says that there's questions and you typically know and get a feel for these questions, we're the same way. I've been doing this about 20 years now, and that's the way it should be. So we would love the opportunity to continue to serve you, to work with you in whatever capacity makes sense. And at the same time, we understand that we serve at the pleasure of the board, and we respect the process and appreciate the process. So that's all I had. Thank you very much.
Great. A quick question.
Yeah, yes, ma'am.
Some of the same questions that we ask Mr. Eckert. So how many CDDs do you currently represent?
I currently represent Harmony CDD and have represented Harmony since 2000. The firm has represented since 2000. I graduated law school and really started undertaking and working at Harmony in about 2007. I just had some successful litigation for the Concord CDD, and then my firm historically has had numerous CDDs, but I have other focuses. I love the CDD work. I loved being a part of Harmony and getting to see this place from when it was nothing. And I hope to grow and get more clients, but at the time, just two.
Okay, so you're still employed with Concord?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. You explained the number of years. We have the flat fee currently with you. In the last packet you provided us, you said your new billing rate is 400 an hour?
I don't know what, if to you guys?
Well, yeah, that's in one of the documents you sent us. You mentioned your billing rate, your hourly billing rate was now $400 an hour.
No, I have.
So, I mean, we're not currently in need of hourly billing because we're not in any litigation or anything.
That might have
so-
been a typo. That there's nothing, you guys hadn't asked me to change from the retainer deal. When it comes to an hourly rate,
Mhm.
I would work with you. I'd be happy to match the 395
Okay,
number. Yeah, sure.
okay. And I don't think venue's a problem because you're used to working here in Osceola. So
Absolutely.
I don't
Absolutely.
think
Yeah,
that-
we have clients in every political subdivision in
Right.
the state.
Okay, any other questions of Mr. Qualls? Okay, all right, hearing none, we'll bring it back to the board. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you. Thank
Qualls,
you
I
all.
appreciate it. Okay.
So I'll just start. I requested this discussion last month, or actually it was last meeting, which was 2 months ago. I explained why I was increasingly not happy with our current council, because I just felt like there were so many things that one on top of another on top of another. I really like Mr. Qualls. I really have enjoyed working with him over the years. But in the last couple of years, and there have been things he knows, and we've had conversations about it. But even, another example was, it was 2 months ago almost that I had this. Thank you. Is that better?
Yes.
It was 2 months ago that I mentioned this at the meeting. And Mr. Qualls called me or texted me this morning to ask to have a conversation today about his work with the CDD. And to me, that's like waiting till he's had 2 months. So that was just, and my schedule was jam-packed today, and I just didn't have the opportunity to do so. And that was just, 2 months it's been. And so I figured if he was really wanting to keep the role here, that maybe he would contact me earlier than the day of the meeting. If anybody wants me to recount the reasons, I will, but I mentioned them at the last meeting.
My thoughts are, and we discussed this back in January, I think it was. I'd say that my position hasn't really changed since then. I have in the year and a half I've been on the board, all my dealings with Mr. Qualls, I've usually it's, me reaching out with a question or something like that, and there's always been a, usually, prompt, helpful answer and all that. Yeah, I'm used to, if there's something of legal interest in that meeting, I'll usually, it is usually the day of the meeting that, I'll talk to Tim to, make sure we're all, understanding of what's going to be discussed that night and everything like that. But from my experience, I mean, Mr. Eckers, certainly an impressive resume and all that. And I'm sure we would be fine. We would, do just fine as a district with that representation. However, I've been satisfied so far with our current council.
And I'll come to you in just a moment for our new members. I'm not sure what your situations are.
And I don't, I don't know if you even know what my perspective is or what Teresa's perspective is in terms of, our interaction
And again, I'll just state my position. As I'm sure, I think most of you know, I am an attorney. I have been working with Mr. Qualls for at least 1.5 years and dealt with him even some before I got on the board. The reason I ran for the CDD was some serious concerns about the legal representation of Harmony and the quality of the work and the potential conflicts that were happening. So I am very concerned. If you want me to go into it, I will, but I'd rather not on the record for Mr. Qualls' sake. But I cannot support continuing on with Mr. Qualls. Mr. Short or Ms. Phillips?
Oh, I didn't know I was supposed to make a big
You
decision.
don't, you do not have to make any
Well,
statements. at
No,
all.
no, but even in the vote,
Yeah.
and we don't have to.
And if
make a
you have-
decision tonight.
If you have some questions,
I just have like gut stuff,
Okay.
and that's not a good way to make a decision, so.
I understand that. Mr. Short,
I'm just learning.
just
right now.
learning.
So,
Okay.
I feel like a rookie. Some of those words went over my head. Some of them I'm like, okay, I know what he's talking about there. That makes some
Right.
sense. And I probably need a little bit more education to feel comfortable, making a vote on something like this. But I do have that gut, and usually it's usually right. So right, yeah.
So in this case where we have two, brand new board members and we have an important decision to make, I mean, any kind of discussion, obviously sunshine law needs to be on the record and everything. Is that something we should, that we need the workshop to discuss? Is that,
Can I interject?
please.
No, you don't need to workshop it. I understand there are 2 new board members. If they would like to, recuse themselves, they can do that from the vote if there is to be a vote. Or obviously the board, you do have the option to push it down the road or cancel it altogether. But I don't think this is something you need to call a workshop on.
And I would like to deal with it today if at all possible, because we have a very important contract coming up for our new landscape services that needs more attention than it has gotten because of changes in what we're dealing with. I think this is the right time to make a transition. So at this point, I would move that we change our legal representation to Kutek Rock with Mr. Michael Eckert and negotiate with him on providing legal services for Harmony.
Well, I'd like to have a little more discussion.
Okay, well, we do after we have a motion in a second.
Yes, but
And
you're
then-
not going to get a second without.
Okay, I need a second for discussion purposes.
So,
Well, I mean, we've already been discussing, I mean,
Yeah.
Right.
can that discussion continue or?
or
Well,
can you pause?
I will
motion?
pause my motion.
So I'm wondering what it would take for our two new board members to feel more comfortable with.
Well, I do have a question. So is there a length of time on this contract? Like if we,
It's at will.
okay, so if we end up not liking him, I'm not using the right words, but we're not locked in for 5 years or something.
No.
On this.
It,
Okay.
an attorney serves their client at the will of the client. And so if next month we come back and change our, we can
Okay.
do something different.
All right, well,
I
that's what
would
made
hope
me
we-
nervous about voting.
No,
was
I
if I didn't want to vote on something that locked
Sure.
everybody in for
Uh-huh.
a length of time, you know?
Yes, I understand that.
All right, well, then
totally.
I will sort of give my opinion. I'm new, he's new. I guess usher in the new is how I'm leaning, yeah. But that's just my gut though, because I don't know all the other stuff that went on before, so.
What would help you feel more comfortable?
I think if I knew better the role of the attorney and like how they serve and in those types of things, I mean, it seems obvious that we'd have legal representation, but some of the things that were mentioned, I just don't need education on how that all works, I think, so. And that might be just my shortcoming, of just not getting educated before I come to the meeting regarding what services they tend to provide to a CDD, so. That's where I don't know if that really is a question though.
So would it help for Mr. Qualls or Mr. Eckert to explain what kind of services they provide?
Oh,
or would we-
So I think that would be helpful. Yeah, I mean, you went, each of you kind of reviewed some of those things, but some of that goes over my head. When you're talking about easements, I'm a little bit familiar with that because I locate utilities in the ground, right? And so I understand that to some degree, but how that impacts Harmony CDD. Yeah, hear me? Okay. I was thinking, maybe that's the way to do it. I'll try this. How about now?
Yeah.
Oh, much better. And that was something you mentioned a lot, Mr. Eckert, I think, was those tend to be common conflicts that you interact with and try to help sort. And so, yeah, that's, yeah. Sorry, you guys are looking at me a lot. And
Sorry.
I'm not really sure. I know how to get resolution here, so.
Okay, Mr. Eckert, do you want to explain to him a little bit about what your role is in most CDDs?
Sure. Let's go ahead. Back over here, if that's okay. So our number one goal for CDD council.
Yeah, if you, I'm sorry.
Floor mic. Yep.
And you can bring the chair
No,
up.
that's fine. Our number one job is to make sure you comply with the law. That's the first thing that we need to do is make sure that everybody stays out of traffic and that we're meeting the state statutory requirements that we need to meet. Is protecting the property of the district, helping the board do that, protect the property of the district that the district owns. And then that's why the district exists. It's here to fund, operate, and maintain public infrastructure. That's the sole purpose of the district. Sometimes that includes recreation, sometimes it includes, stormwater, conservation land, things like that. But protect the property of the district, help the district do that. The other thing that we typically do is anytime you're going to contract with somebody, we would at least want to review that. Sometimes it's going to be a formal contract. Sometimes it's going to be a standard addendum that we have to a contract that we'll send to the district manager saying, attach the proposal to this addendum, sign here. That's good enough for this contract. Typically, that's not based on dollar value. That's one of the mistakes that I think people make is it should be based on risk. So for example, if you're going to order $20,000 worth of pool furniture, I care less about that than if you're going to do $1,000 worth of road repairs. And you're going to have people standing in traffic. I care about that contract a whole lot more than I do about purchasing the furniture. So again, that's, looking out to protect the district from liability, making sure that, the infrastructure is maintained.
And we typically work, hand in hand with you've got a district engineer, and you have a very good district engineer. He does engineering stuff. I don't want to do engineering stuff. I don't understand it. But what will happen is they will identify things and we'll say, okay, well, how are we going to implement the remediation plan for this? Is it contracting with somebody else? Is it a wait and see mode? Is it dealing with the permitting agency? And we'll work hand in hand with your district engineer and your district manager to make sure that the property is taken care of, you're complying with law. The other thing that we do is I'm not afraid to tell you business advice based on my experiences at other districts. And some people will say, well, you should stay in your lane, you should just be the attorney. I can do that, but I can also tell you, this is what the law is. If you do that, it will be legal. However, when you do that, this is going to happen and that's bad. So I'm not afraid to do that. It's not traditional practice of law, which is a lot of times more reactionary. This is what the law says, you guys figure it out. I'll give you that, and the business decision is still yours, but I will tell you, in these 3 instances, it happened exactly this way. So you really ought to think before you go down this path. So that's kind of the last thing, is we'll provide what I'll call business advice based on our experience where we've run into it in the past.
Okay.
Does that help?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
Thank
it
you.
does. It helped me a lot.
May I respond?
Yeah, please.
Great. This is so educational for the. So, and really my answer in a lot of ways is the same. You've heard me all say this. First of all, though, before I get into that, we're really concerned, this wasn't mentioned, but just with compliance with the Sunshine Law and public records, that gets a lot of people in a lot of trouble, including criminal trouble. So the first thing we do, and I've already talked to you, as you were, we give you all the information you need to make sure you understand Florida's Sunshine Law, about having to have meetings in the public, and then the public record law. And, we represent a myriad of government officials. These things can sound real complicated at first, but when you get into the flow of things and you know the essence of it, it really comes quite simple. 1, any record's a public record. 2, stay away from social media and commenting back and forth with other board members on things that could come before the board. That'll get you in a world of hurt. The juice ain't worth the squeeze. Okay, I don't care what anybody says about Facebook. I ain't a fan. The second is, of course, we've said this a million times. We've been here since 2000. We know your infrastructure like the back of our hand. We say over and over again, you guys only have one job. This board will talk about so many things, but at the end of the day, there's one job. It's the maintenance of infrastructure, and that's horizontal infrastructure. Here, it's your sidewalks. There's a right of way along the sidewalks that has trees that need to be trimmed. There's recreational facilities, parks and playgrounds. There's Buck Lake. We've been here since the beginning. We know how it all came about. We know about your infrastructure. We know the work this board puts in. You guys better elect to take the compensation, because you will work 100 hours. Okay, and it will come down to about 50 cents an hour. And that's not a joke. They will attest to that. Our job is to help steer you right. The reason we switched to a retainer is we were hearing people say, gee, I don't know if we should talk to the attorney. We don't want to run up the bill. We said, talk to us. Our main job, guys, is just like you maintain infrastructure. We do preventative maintenance. If we go to court, there's a failure. Okay. And so we try to keep you out of trouble and do preventative maintenance with the goal being the maintenance of infrastructure. Chapter 190 in the Florida statutes is the chapter that governs how CDDs operate and how they go about doing their business. It says you shall, for instance, have a district manager who will manage the works of the district. And a lot of times boards start getting into minutia around the community. Hey, pick that can up. Oh, we got to change the way we clean this. Oh, we got to do, that ain't y'all's job. You have a contractor manager to do that. Y'all's job is to set high level policy goals and objectives that are in keeping with state law. It's overwhelming at first. You kind of were being put on the spot. I don't think there's any shame in saying that, and I'm glad you did, because I've been doing this for a long time, but it is very complex. And I was telling you, I just got on the school board. I just say every meeting, don't come to me as the attorney. I know chapter 190. I don't know the education chapter. It's very nuanced and specialized, but at the end of the day, it's neat because it all goes back to the central focus of making sure that your community is happy with the way you've maintained the infrastructure for them. Their streetlights are working. Their sewers are working. their playgrounds are safe for their kids. And why is this better for your community to go here than this, instead of going to the county? Because this is local government at its finest. If you got a problem with the county road,
Tim?
you got to petition your government and go on. You don't want me, you want me to
No,
stop?
I'm just, we're running low on time
Right.
and, I
Okay,
think
that's
we know
all.
what the
Thank you.
CBD
Yeah.
is, but what your role is. All right, thank you. Yes.
I have a question. So, based on those descriptions,
Mhm.
we had issues in the past?
Well,
Has Harmony CDD had issues in the past?
so I would like to ask Mr. Eckert.
Is that a little bit bold?
How he might
No,
deal with
absolutely.
some things. That's probably better. So, and I'm not sure this is the correct direction to go, but we had a disagreement. There was a misunderstanding about who owned some land, and some things happened, and the landowner ended up suing one of the board members. He did not sue the CDD, and he did not sue the board member as a member of the board. So my feeling was this was not a board issue, but we should send it to our D&O insurance. And some of the board members wanted to have the board member represented by the board. By,
Madam Chair, can
Yeah.
I call a timeout? You guys are getting into the subject matter of ongoing litigation. And insurance is covering this now. You going back and reading this, I don't know if it's the best thing to do, given that there is litigation active.
Okay.
And you may look to the new guy who's not your attorney. As long as I'm still here, I'm gonna try to steer you in the right direction.
Okay, let me ask a quick question. Of the districts you represent, how often do you find that they end up in litigation?
I would say it's very rare. The Harbor Bay CDD, which I talked about a little bit earlier, they're in litigation quite often. One, because they had 7 miles of seawall that was failing behind people's homes. So you had uplands damages, you had pools cracking. So they have a lot of litigation. Falcon Trace, which is again, one that I mentioned earlier in Orlando, we've never had litigation that I'm aware of. We had one piece that was an administrative complaint against a pool attendant for age discrimination. So, and then that was resolved within a couple weeks.
When you have litigation,
Mhm.
Do you represent the district or do you suggest district to send it to insurance or to get outside counsel?
Typically, I will tell them to send it to insurance first, see if it's covered by insurance. If it's covered by insurance, then we would use the insurance defense provisions because that saves the residents money. If it's not covered by insurance and it's something where I could potentially be a witness in that proceeding, I will tell the district, hire outside counsel. It shouldn't be me or my firm, because you're going to want me to be a witness and not be tainted by the fact that I'm also making an argument in front of the judge and then also being a witness in front of the judge. If it's something where we're not a witness at all, and it's something that is not covered by insurance, then we oftentimes would go ahead and handle that litigation. The exception would be is I won't represent a board member. Sometimes there are ways that the district counsel or the government attorney can represent a board member. Even in those occasions, I will not do that because I don't think it serves the board member well. I think they should have independent counsel.
All right, thank you.
May I respond? Because that's the same policy here. You guys go to insurance, we recommend that. And then it's up to the board though to ultimately decide. And in this case, the board voted not to go with the insurance.
I'm going to leave that for anybody who wants to review the record, but that's not.
When we discussed this a few months ago, I did review that, and it was a previous board with different members and all that. And I remember.
Did you listen to the audio
I listened to the audio. I looked at the
of
transcript.
both meetings?
I believe I did.
Okay.
That, I mean, maybe it didn't go as far as saying I will not represent, but he, you know, he did make the recommendation of using insurance, but was then, you know, the board voted to do otherwise, and he, you know, I disagreed with it at the time. I still wish that hadn't have happened, but that was what was done, and it was, you know, my interpretation was he was doing what the board directed him to do at the time, as wrong as
Okay.
that may have been.
Yeah. I listened to the tapes and he very clearly at the meeting where they decided to
Sorry.
fund the litigation, he specifically stated he would not represent the board member. And then 2 days later filed a notice of appearance in the case. So that's one issue. But again, my concern is with the quality of work, the responsiveness that I have seen over the past year and a half, more so than what had happened before I came on the board. I just have not seen the quality of work. And it takes a lot longer for him to address issues. He doesn't seem to understand what the board, the direction the board gives him. And we need someone who has extensive ongoing experience with CDDs. So. Any further questions, thoughts, motions? Where do you want to move from here?
Well, you paused your motion.
Okay, I will resurrect my motion that we change law firms and transfer our position of district legal counsel to Kutek Rock with Michael Eckert.
So with hesitation and with appreciation for Mr. Qualls, I will second the motion.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. I'd like to recuse myself on this one still.
Okay. All opposed?
Nay.
With 3 votes in the affirmative, with Dane Short recusing himself, and one nay vote from Mr. Leach, the motion carries. Thank you very much.
That's did way better than Trump when he was on The Apprentice. Thank you. Heck, it's been a pleasure. Let me get out y'all's hair. Good luck. We're there for you. Anything you need. Thanks, y'all. Thank you for the opportunity. I learned so much the last 20 years. Wish you all the best of luck. Take care. God bless you all.
Take
Take care, David. Thank you.
Okay. So at this point in time, we'll move forward. We will be getting with Tech Rock, Mr. Eckert, and working out the finer points of your representation. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Look forward to working.
All right. The next item on our agenda is field services. However, in recognition that Cervello's been sitting here for a full hour, will, unless anybody has any objection, I'd like to move Cervello's portion of this agenda up to this point. Do I hear any objections to doing that? No. All right, Mr. Pete Betancourt, if you'll step up to the microphone, and you can bring your chair if you want to.
No, it's all
because we've
right.
got-
I sit down all day long. so.
Yeah, luckily you're in the air conditioning now. So we will just flip over to the Cervello portion of our agenda, which is item number 4 under contractors reports. We have several proposals to deal with. Do you want to start at the top? And then there are 2 other outliers that I'd like to pull into
I got a
this.
question
Sure.
for the board. The tree limb over at the water, lakeshore,
At the lakefront park. Mhm.
yeah. Arbor will be here within 2 weeks.
Okay.
The limb for us, we're only go up to 8 to 10 feet with our posa is too high already. Being that Arbor is gonna be here, they're gonna have the reach, the lift,
Mhm.
okay? they will be able to do it
Okay,
at no charge. If, what?
we'll do that.
If you
Unless the
want-
board has any, and for those who may not be aware, down at the lakefront playground where the kids' play equipment is, we have 2 large shade screens. Shade screens over the equipment. And there is a large oak tree. One half of it was impinging on the area over the older children's play area. There got to be a scuffle about who could do that from the ground. So I took my tree lopper over there and I just pruned that one. That one's fine. You don't have to think about it anymore. It's done. The other one, however, is way up and over the peak of the shade screen. So there's no way to safely get that down unless you have a lift or a cherry pick. So it is actually on the shade screen right now. So it could be starting to do damage to it, but it's been that way for about a month now. So if they'll be back in 2 weeks or so and can get it then at no cost to the district.
Yeah, I would say if it's not like damage, it's any kind of safety issue, then.
Yes,
waiting
no,
makes
it's not going
perfect
to fall
sense.
on any
Yep.
children or
Yeah.
anything like that.
Waiting makes perfect sense.
Okay. So we could do that.
Okay.
The other thing on the tree trimming, last year, your arbor crew was doing the inside tree trimming, which is a separate contract, and had some serious problems. Has that arbor crew changed?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, so we're gonna get a really good tree trimming and.
We, our cutter has worked previously for Savello, but found another job, when
Okay,
now he's back. And he was the one doing the cutting when I first got here.
okay, so he was the one with.
Big chubby guy.
Big. Okay. My apologies.
I'm sure he'd love to be called that.
Okay, and you'll have a lift in the neighborhood too,
Yeah.
just in case.
Yeah, they bring the lift when
So-
they do the outside oaks.
Right,
They bring the lift. Normally, we keep it in the Savello yard. And then when they need it, they
they take it out.
take it out.
So we never finished the inside tree trimming last time because they were lion's tailing everything and really causing more damage to the trees. If you have a different crew that's better experienced than the one that was here last year.
When I was moved over to Harmony, he was already at Sorella.
Okay,
That's where I met him.
and he has a lot of experience. He's not the guys that were here last year, right?
No,
Okay, so would the board be interested in having them also do the remainder of the inside tree trimming that we were undertaking last year, because it is definitely needed? And just add that to their outside while they're here, maybe they will.
that would be a question for Scott.
Okay, so we will ask him to take a look at that and then advise him from Mark as to what it would be.
That would
And
be-
then-
As part of our contract or as an addition?
Well, it would be again, we stopped the contract we were under. They gave them a partial payment for the work they had done minus some quality deductions. So it would be basically a reenactment of that contract. If they can work with that,
And that's the existing budget.
yes. So if the board is interested in trying to get that done, that would do Butterfly and all of those areas that did not get finished up in that inside tree trimming last year.
Okay.
Would there be any objection to getting that resolved?
Makes sense.
Hearing no objection, we'll have Infomark reach out to Scotty and negotiate that and see what we can come up with. So that I just wanted to touch on that, and you'll get that tree over shade screen.
Yeah, they'll get that, definitely.
And the rest of the outside tree trimming is already in our contract, already paid for, so that's covered. So the other proposals,
One more thing.
one more thing before we go into the list.
The swim club, palm
Yes.
trees, they'll be here also Monday. Just to do that, the palm trees in the swim club and the palm trees at the dog park.
Okay, great.
Okay.
All right, the first proposal is an irrigation maintenance proposal that deals with replacing a number of wireless sensors, rain sensors throughout the community.
Yeah, there was no explanation on what this was about.
Yeah, Kirk, who, when we first went with you guys for irrigation, my understanding, he replaced some of the rain sensors at that time. In fact, I noticed quite a few showing up on adjacent stop signs and things, some wireless sensors. But I presume this is in addition to those,
It was Corey that,
or Corey?
Yeah.
Okay.
this is, he only did 15 rain sensors at the time.
Mhm.
This is for the remaining clocks that don't have rain sensors.
Okay, and right now there are no rain sensors on them that are functioning,
The remaining clocks,
right?
they do not have any functioning rain sensors right now.
Which puts us in non-compliance with county code, right?
So just a question, is just checking around budget, is this within, is this outside of or
This-
included in what we have budgeted for irrigation?
Right, this would be probably fall outside of that budgeted number. But again, this would be something that we would, it would not be a regular day-to-day maintenance issue. We should be able to maintain these rain sensors
The
for,
ones,
what's the warranty on them?
I would have to check. With,
Okay.
with,
So it's more of a reserve item to upgrade,
It's mainly when it rains,
right?
especially we have rain sensors down this way.
Mhm.
When it rains, the clock won't turn on.
Right.
The rain sensor will shut
Shut
it
it
down.
down. And if these are installed in the proper location, I saw one the other day at one of the pocket parks and the rain sensor is underneath the heavy canopy of the
No,
crepe
we'll
myrtle,
put
so
it-
it doesn't function.
You could put it on a
So,
sign away
yeah,
from
this
the
has to
tree.
be out in the open to truly
Because
function.
that little white thing,
Uh-huh.
once water goes in it
Touches.
to a certain level, that triggers the rain sensor to tell the clock, hey, stop running.
Okay,
So can we take this out of reserve then?
we could take
Could
it
we
out of
take it in reserve?
reserves. We could also, once we get it done, we may see this amount easily in our first month's savings in our bill.
Okay, well, I would, we have reserves.
Mhm.
There are certain things we were going to do with reserves that we're not going to do now, or that are continued, that are still delayed. So I would move to approve proposal 6845 from Cervello in the amount of $3,341.17 to be taken from reserves.
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve the wireless rain sensor installation 16 for a total of 3341.17. All in favor?
Do we have any discussion? Do we
Oh,
have
I'm
any-
sorry.
I just have
Any
one
further
last quick question. So these sensors, do they still tie in through the existing, what's it called?
Maxcom.
Maxicom system, or are they more of like a local?
It's, even though what I was told when we first took over this irrigation from Mr. Gerhard, Maxicom, what it is, it starts the clock, but it doesn't operate it.
Okay.
You put a rain sensor on the clock, it'll determine, okay, and we'll shut it down.
Okay, so it's local for that area, but not tied. Okay.
Dan, if I can chime in, this is Brett. Sorry, Pete. You hear me?
Brett?
Perfect. Hey, so the rain sensors don't necessarily stop the clock. They put the system on hold. And once that rain sensor basically dries out, then the system comes off of hold and can resume operation. So if you get a middle of the day rain and it's a deluge and then the sun comes out, as long as that sensor dries out, the clock is still on and will actually pick up running zones again. It's all based off of how many inches of rain you get. You can set those rain sensors to, quarter inch, half inch, 1 inch. It all depends on what, theoretically a half inch should be plenty of rain in the amount of the day to hold.
And you recommend our approving this proposal?
Yeah, I think wireless sensors are the way to go right now, because if you have to wire it, ideally you would have to attach it to a building or something, some form of structure to make it tie into the clock. They are using Pete did inform me they're using a Hunter product. They do interface with the Maxicom. Again, all it is it's going to put the system in a hold versus shutting the clock down.
Okay, great. Any other questions, discussion? Okay, hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. That was the easy one. That's good. The next proposal is for sod replacement. This is in the area on Schoolhouse. There are 9 houses that they're proposing to resod the area between the sidewalk and the curb to the tune of $1,000 a house.
Wow.
I don't-
Just to replace the sod between the sidewalk and the curb?
Yes, and I don't want to get you started unnecessarily, but I went out and looked at all of those. And you're gonna put sod down and the exact same wear patterns are gonna show up again as soon as they start walking on them. I don't know why this area was selected over all the other sod issues.
That was a complaint from a resident.
Yeah, I figured probably somebody was marketing 2 houses there.
Yes,
But so
accurate.
my position, I am not in favor of passing this proposal. I'm sorry, did Brett want to tune?
Yeah, I was just adding color to the proposal. Basically,
Color.
there was we had quite a few CDD maintenance emails come in requesting sod in those areas. And, obviously all we could tell them is we will get a proposal together and present it to the board for their review.
Okay, and what I'd like to, unless the board feels otherwise, if we run Cervello around doing a proposal for every resident complaint, poor Cervello is going to be totally wasted.
I'd like to table this, and I did not, I mean, we have for those of you who don't know, our agenda package this month, which we got just last week, was 448 pages. It's a lot to get through in just a few days. And then also I happen to be on the HOA board, and that blew up in the last couple of days and required a lot of my time. I did not get a chance to take a look at these particular areas, and would like the opportunity to. So I'd like to table it until next meeting. So we're not just saying absolutely not. I'd like to take a look at it. I know there were some areas that we looked at a while back on Catbrier. And
they never got addressed.
And I don't know that they've gotten addressed. I'd like to look at them too. There are areas that are, what I was told was, oh, they're under oak trees, they're getting shaded out. But what I saw was no irrigation, no leaf pickup, no fertilization.
Right.
And I don't know if it's the same situation over here. So I'd like to table and take a look.
So without objection, we'll pass this on to next agenda.
Do we need to move on that, or?
We don't
No,
have to.
okay.
If nobody objects. Okay, so we'll move that to the next agenda. The next proposal is sod at the new dog park around I only saw a need for it around one of the benches. The other bench looked okay. It really looks like a very small amount of sod.
Yeah.
If any at all, and maybe our field services crew could go out and pick up a square of solder and put it out there. Is that something I noticed you had in some of your billings, a couple of things of sod every once in a while? Is
Yeah, like
that
at the
something
dog,
you
at
can handle?
the other dog park.
Well, around the bench,
Uh-huh.
There's a big section in the south, the plan requesting a proposal to surveil, because we actually need to cover, it's between the concrete and the dirt area.
Okay.
And if we get something different from Home Depot, something like this, it's really more expensive.
Then $429.
Yes, including, because my field staff, if Brett can help me in the planning.
Not a problem. I'll help you here. One, the proposal says 1 square foot of sod for $429.
Yeah.
Can't really do that. If I can enlist a gardener helper, we'll pick up a couple of things of sod and take care of that. So
Okay, so.
I would not move forward on that proposal.
So the board okay with not moving forward with the proposal 6834?
I also have I don't know.
Go ahead.
There's fuel surcharges
Yes.
on here. So do those stay in effect if we approve it? Even though the price of fuel is going down, we're
Yes.
locked into that price? Well, I definitely say we table it or postpone or whatever the word
Okay,
is.
the next two, proposal 33 and 34 were for the same property address.
Yeah, I didn't understand
That, however, I encouraged Inframark to approach Jones Homes on, since that was an issue with the house just being built and not having good sod laid down there at by the builder, and they said that they would be sodding that area and taking care of that for us. So we no longer need Cervelo to take care of that one, either of those two.
Okay.
It's 6935. Now.
Teresa,
Yes.
Teresa, those proposals were but Jones Homes is going to handle those on Songbird, not Sagebrush.
Isn't this the one right between Songbird and Sagebrush?
Oh, yes, they already handled those areas. I'm sorry. I thought
Yeah.
you were talking about the Songbird ones. Correct. Keep going.
No, that's not it. The next is Clay Brick. There's an area on Clay Brick has the sod died off in this area. Is that due to irrigation issues?
Yep.
Okay.
That's the clock on the other property that I couldn't access. So I don't even know if the clock's working.
Okay.
So if it's not working, then do we want to put $7,500 into replacing the sod?
I just need access forward.
Yeah.
Somebody saying,
I
grant me access to. What are the clocks?
I think we need to hold off on that proposal until we get the irrigation issue straightened out.
And how are we, what's the plan? to get the
We
irrigation?
have contacted Rosemary, who was the attorney for the new ownership. She provided us information, contact information for their property management group. Brett, did you ever get with were you able to come in contact with the property management company on that locked irrigation box?
Nope. The phone number you call goes to a voicemail.
Did
That's
you ever
full.
email?
There is no email. I went to their website and filled out a contact us and gave all my information and never got a response back. I've called at least 5 times and it just keeps going to that voicemail that nobody answers.
All right, move to
Okay.
table.
We'll table this one until the irrigation gets worked out.
Can I
Any
second
objection
that?
from the board to tabling that until irrigation is corrected? Okay. Hearing none, that's tabled. Then we have, I'd like to pull forward from page 413. While Scotty is, I'm sorry, while Pete Betancourt is here with us from Cervelo. That is the addendum for the addition of the enclaves to our budget.
Now, this is for the period of
September and October of this year only.
because as of I thought as of
October
October
1st.
first, it's under the new contract,
correct.
right? So why is it September and October?
I'm sorry, August and
August and-
September.
August
My
and September.
apologies.
Okay.
I'm jumping a month.
And I'm sorry, I was looking at that earlier.
And this is it's 2 months of service, mowing of that front burn. The only thing that the CDD is accepting from that is that front berm area. In front of the enclaves, we do not have the median strip. So is that, Brett, is that still 5 irrigation zones, or is it something less?
No, it is 5. I verified that today again.
Okay,
Now, there's a $48 figure in a column that doesn't have a label. I assume that it belongs in the September 2022
Right.
column in this.
yeah, I think it got bumped over.
Yeah, I see it.
Oops.
Now, the question is, for 2 months of service, and those are brand new trees and shrubs, do we need the trees and shrubs portion of that? Brett?
For either August or September. One application.
You shouldn't, but I mean, it's not a bad idea to fertilize them. And we don't know what fertilization has been put on them.
Okay,
I mean, if you want to wait till October, you can. That's totally your call, but I think they priced it based off the fee summary of the current contract and when applications were taking place.
my other question is, we entered into another addendum a couple of months back for the mowing and maintenance of the U1 and U2 parcels and B1 parcels that we just were informed that we owned, and that has yet to be mowed or maintained. Is this something you're going to be able to fit into
I was
your,
told that I was starting in October with the new contract.
what's going to start in October?
Are you talking about the fence area?
Yeah, we entered into an agreement for you to start that back, what, 2 months ago?
It was 3 months ago. Yeah, there was an addendum presented. It was approved.
Yes, that is correct.
I was not told about that.
Okay, word did not get down to you
No,
that we
word
had
didn't get-
signed it and,
Yeah.
okay.
Into you now.
Wait,
It will be mowed. I just-
Let's make sure,
If
Mark, that we
somebody
have not
just
been billed or
Can show me
paid.
what the
for that.
boundaries are for. we can start.
Cervello was at that meeting when it was approved.
Okay, but I just want to make sure that we haven't been paying the last several months for that service.
I'll double check and make sure right now.
Okay, I tried to look and I don't think I saw it, but just double check on that.
Okay,
Okay, so you will be able to do this
And that.
if you know.
Yeah,
Okay,
more than likely, that'll be on our Monday routine.
when you're down in the lakes and everything.
Where we mow the horseshoe area,
Uh-huh.
funnel, all that. And
Okay,
then we'll mow the strip. I believe like we used to when I first got here.
okay. And Brett, this pricing is in line with our current pricing for that amount of area?
Yeah, it seems to be. I mean, they didn't give a price per square foot, so I mean, it's not very much.
Okay,
All right, move to approve the addendum to landscape services agreement with Cervello for the enclave for the remainder of the current contract, which ends September 30th, for a total of $2,676.
I will second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Bye.
All opposed? Hearing no opposition, motion passes unanimously. All right. Let me make sure. Okay, I think that's all. Does anyone else have any questions, comments, or concerns for Cervello?
Not at this time.
Hearing none.
Well, briefly, and this is, I haven't talked to David about this for a while. Since we're talking about landscaping in the enclave area, David, real quick, and answering out of turn, do you know, are we, I know we had some property, silt fence kind of issues behind the enclave in the Village Trail area. Do you have a sense of the timescale of that, and would it be appropriate for, while we're talking about enclave landscaping, about that portion behind the enclave?
Brett and I were out there July 7th. There's still a lot of construction going on, and a lot of debris going around. I feel better once the houses are painted, looks like they're ready to go.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a lot of stuff going around.
Right. No further.
And along with that, hopefully, since Jones Homes has helped us on these others, once the construction's completed, maybe they'll step up and help us with a nice hedge along that.
A couple of culverts.
If not, we've been able to propagate firebush really well, and that grows 8 feet tall and 8 feet wide. So that might be a good plant material to put along there if Jones Home won't do it for us. So we'll address that in a couple of months when they get finished.
Okay, thank
right.
you, Pete.
Thank you so much, Pete.
Thanks for your patience.
Yes. Sorry to keep you so long. At least it was cool, right? All right, then we're going to back up on the agenda. The next item we go back to is the new business.
Field
I
service
sent a message to
vehicles.
somebody.
Field service vehicles. We provided an update on what's happening with our vehicles, and it's not been good. We have 3 that are out of service now. And this was a concern. Again, the staff is, from what I understand, juggling the vehicles. We have an Infomark truck in service, and Vincent, correct me if I'm wrong. The Harmony CDD truck is still in service, and we have the UMAX in service. And supposedly, we're supposed to have another UMAX that was in our budget and is already coming, supposed to be coming in August.
Correct.
Yeah, Brett told us today is one of the.
Okay, so sometime in August, we're hoping to get that vehicle. And since we do have a rotating schedule, all 5 of our individuals are only on all together, 3 days a week?
Correct.
And I don't know, we may be able to work out some other scheduling, but they are making do with the vehicles they have at this point in time. They just informed us that they're cutting a check for the vehicle that was stolen, but it's supposedly in the mail from our insurance company. Also, the one in the accident, we're hoping will be with us. The problem is we just can't even find the vehicles. So I did inquire of Infomark, since their employees will be riding the vehicles, if they would put together a proposal too for us to consider of having them provide the vehicles, and therefore they assume all of the risk, liability, maintenance and everything for them, and see how that balances out with us buying them. So hopefully at the next meeting, we'll be able to bring that back to you.
Yes, you will have those.
Is any action required of us now
Not
regarding
at this
the
time.
vehicles?
No, that was just an update, so everyone knows what's going on. I did get confirmation from Aegis that 11,000 and change check is in the mail. We have not received it yet. It was mailed out on the 26th for the theft of one of your vehicles. The other one that Teresa mentioned, the accident, working through the residents insurance and our insurance company to get that resolved. We should get that resolved over the next week or so. And then that will take care of those 2 vehicles. And then we have one more that we're working with Polaris, and Brett will probably have an update over the next week or so regarding that vehicle that was taken in and had an engine issue.
Right, either to rebuild or replace the engine.
Right, and we may not, there may be a different scenario once Brett has a follow-up conversation with them tomorrow or next week. Is that correct, Brett?
Yeah, so the Kawasaki, let me back up real fast on the Kawasaki. The insurance adjuster did visit last week, I believe it was last week, it's not the prior week, and they provided their adjusted cost on that Kawasaki mule that was in the accident. So we should be getting some more information from both sides very soon because that adjuster's already been out. And we also had a quote for repairs on that. We do believe it is, the frame is bent is what we believe it's totaled. So, again, we should be seeing a check come back for that mule. Regarding the Polaris, did speak with Brent, Brent from Polaris. He's the governmental side dealer, and we're working closely with him and the regional manager of Polaris for the basically the southeast of Florida. They or southeast and Florida, including Florida. They oversee commercial authorized Polaris dealers, which Kissimmee Motorsports is one and Sky Motorsports is another in the area, to dig deeper into this Polaris issue. So I did get a response back from him today that he's going to give me a call tomorrow. And if he does, then I'll send an update to the board once I hear more back from them.
The other issue is at our last meeting in May, we did authorize to go forward and buy another Polaris diesel. That has not been ordered yet. And I think until we resolve this issue with Polaris, I would recommend and ask that the board approve putting that purchase on hold because we don't want to buy another Polaris, and we may not even need that high end of a machine, as our new pressure washer is not of the significant weight that the old one was and does not need that 2,500 pound towing capacity.
So moved.
There was also potentially electric version being available in
Later
the
on
nearest
in,
future.
yeah, in the next year or so. So
Yeah, if you want real fast, I did speak to Polaris on that government order. It's 200 to 245 days out if you place that order. I did also ask about the EV cart. Their pre-orders that took place late last year have already been filled, and they're not planning on starting additional production on the EV model until fall of next year.
Wow.
Okay. But at this time, that's not critical to obtain
Correct.
that
That's what it sounds like.
Polaris vehicle. So I have a motion.
I'll
That just to make it cleaner, let's just rescind the action for the Polaris diesel from the May meeting. Is that
So
motion?
moved.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Does that mean that we're covered to the degree we need to be for vehicles then?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
No further questions. I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? Hearing none, passes unanimously to rescind permission to purchase on the Polaris diesel. Okay, the next item on the agenda is Resolution 2022-07, recognizing the contributions of Mr. Steve Berube, who is our district supervisor who has resigned his seat. He served a number of years on the board and as chairman.
Move to approve resolution 2022-07.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. Next item is Resolution 2022-08, recognizing the contributions of Mr. Mike Scarborough, who also was a supervisor that recently resigned.
Move to approve resolution 2022-08.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call a question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Sorry. I don't, that's a creature, not a, sorry. Hearing no opposition, motion passes. Next item on the agenda is a facility usage application. Do you want to handle this, Angel?
Yes, so Jennifer sent this in as she typically does. Unfortunately, she has not provided other pertinent information, which is how many people and that kind of stuff. What you see before you is what she submitted. I don't have any additional information from her as yet. As of yet, I have reached out to ask for that additional information, but unfortunately, I have not gotten a response yet.
So this is an HOA sponsored event. So I
Correct.
would want to approve it. The only thing that's happened in the past is that the condition of the town square area, which I believe the way it appeared in the agenda is funky and it's very hard to read, at least in my copy.
Same here.
Yeah, mine too.
Usually that's when she sends it in, and usually none of them are really a good read. I've asked if she could send it in a different format, but I think that's all she has the ability to do at this time.
Right, so it just says, I think it says streets on Harmony Square. So I would just want to make sure there was something, I don't know that our facility usage applications address the trash pickup and disposal issue.
Is she putting down a deposit like she's supposed to, Angel?
Yes, a $250 deposit. I've had that conversation with her, as has Vincent has had that conversation with her as well. There's been no objection to that at all. So yes.
So I'll move to approve this application.
I will second.
Now a motion and a second, but I would like to discuss it before we go further. I appreciate that this is an HROA and we have great events and we love them, but I need this message to go back to Jennifer, is that she needs to stop advertising events before she gets approval, because it's going to end up like it did at one time, where she disappoints the entire community because someone else has reserved that facility before she got her application in. So please just let her know that quit assuming that her events are going to take priority. She needs to get them in well above. And, you know, there's going to be a little prejudice against her if it's advertised before she comes to us.
I'll relay that information to her again.
Again, yes. And if
Yeah, and
somebody-
I think the disconnect is that I think the disconnect, or at least it feels that the disconnect is, this is an event that, or some of these events that she does are yearly or annual events that she's been doing in the past, or that they've done in the past. So she feels that there's a standing spot there for that. So I will reiterate that, and maybe hopefully we all get on the same page.
All the more reason it can be sent, you know, that extra month or two in advance if we need to for.
That's right. She should know.
Perfect.
The other discussion item I want to mention here is this event will be generating income because the vendors are paying for slots to come and provide. So do we have any expenses? Are they going to be using our electrical power? What are we going to be incurring costs that we may need for her to reimburse from the funds that she'll be getting from the vendors?
She told me that electric is not going to be needed. She will not be using anyone's electricity, but I will reconfirm all of this with her first thing in the morning.
Okay, and water and electricity.
Correct. She
And
said,
there is a section she was supposed to be providing you with a list of all the vendors so that we have the proper documentation and
Correct.
liability waivers on those. Okay, so those are my concerns. And again, the biggest one is I don't want to see the community disappointed on an event when we have to say no. So I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this item?
I would like to ask one thing. Who's responsible for cleaning up after an event?
She is.
So is there money in her budget to pay people to do that?
There needs to be, but we're taking a $250 deposit, and if the cleanup isn't done, then that deposit is forfeited.
Okay, so then we have someone that can do the cleanup if we pay them.
Field services.
Okay.
For $250.
If I may,
Yes.
I did speak with Jennifer multiple times about this. Her biggest concern and confusion point too is that she's setting it up on the streets around town square, that there's not actually physically going to be vendors on the CD property. So that's why she's asking about the vendor list and all that stuff. She's like, they're not going to be on CD property. And I'm like, well, we need to turn in and discuss it because you've done this in the past. So they're going to be set up in like the parking spots, the stalls on the street, and not physically in the grass on the CDD. So I'm not sure how you want to move forward with the vendor list and that stuff.
Okay.
I told her she needs to
understand
check
why she
out.
can't provide us a vendor list.
Ask her.
Okay. And also, has she gotten approval from the sheriff or county roads and bridges to close those roads down?
That's what I informed her as well. I told her that the CDD doesn't own those roads, that she probably needs to check with the county as well.
And
She's aware.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Brett.
I've just said she's aware of that. I mentioned that to her in the last phone call.
As did I, and she felt that that was not necessary. So just relaying what she relayed, but we'll have another conversation with her in the morning and see what we can get rectified.
Thank you.
Of course.
Any other discussion from the board?
Well, she's wrong on that point, frankly.
The closing of the
Somebody
roads?
has had to deal with like MOT stuff in the past. You just can't do that without.
Yeah.
Granted, it's not technically our road as I understand it still, that's.
Well, we have had many events like this in the past, so it's not as though this is something, novel or new for the CDD, on those roads as an event.
But we need to get in the habit of doing it right, because as more and more of Harmony develops out, new people are here, they're going to be turning down that road, and I just don't want to have an issue with it. So
Yeah, well, I think they do something where it's not like all the roads. I mean,
It's a portion of the loop, so they can. still-
right, I understand what it is. I'm just asking Jennifer. We just need to ask Jennifer to start doing it right. Okay.
I'm
So
sorry, do I
That
have
would be
some-
the preference.
I think we're in agreement.
What was done in
I
the
like
past
the
is the
events.
past. We need it done right in the future.
I'm going to apologize for putting on sunglasses, but that's
Yeah, that
something-
sun is brutal.
Yeah, we could close this.
Okay, all
Oh, no,
in
we can't.
favor?
There's nothing to close.
You're right.
Yeah,
sorry.
they don't close. All in favor of
Aye.
approving the facility use permit for the summer market?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing no opposition, passes unanimously with caveats to the event holder. All right, we've done Mr. Vello at this point in time. And so now we are on to the consent agenda. The first part of the consent agenda is, or the entire consent agenda includes minutes for the April 28th, 2022 meeting and May 26th, 2022 meeting, the acceptance of financial statements for June 2022, and approval of number 266 invoices and check register.
I have a couple of items regarding the consent agenda. The first is that I have sent in multiple, I went through with the May minutes and sent suggested revisions to Infomark. So
And let me interject here.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask that we table the May minutes because I did not get them in a timely
I
fashion
see.
to go over. I like to go through, since we're doing verbatim minutes, I like to listen to the recording and review the minutes at the same time. They did not come in a timely fashion, which is why Brenda's going to help us out with a new process for the minutes. And I wouldn't want to ask anybody, any of the supervisors to approve minutes as they've been changed, but you not knowing the changes too. So if we could remove the May 26, 2022 minutes from the consent agenda and table them till next meeting.
And then I just had a couple of questions about the invoices. One of them was for the tree trimming with B and B, just to make sure that all of the issues that had been outstanding have been addressed before we approve that invoice payment. Brett? You there, Brett?
Yeah, I have to unmute both things.
Sorry.
Sorry, the computer and the phone, so it takes a second. Yeah, so we circled up with B&B. There was multiple discussions. There was some terminology in the contract in the original document that B&B provided. They gave the price per tree for the maintenance tree pruning. It also stated in the documents, which was attached as an exhibit to the contract, that price would be valid for maintenance pruning. So there was some costs that were higher than what the maintenance pruning costs showed, and they trimmed what they felt was $10,000 worth of trees. Obviously, we could go back and forth with them, but yeah, the work that they did was professional. The prunes were made. They did look nice afterwards, but there was probably we need to make sure going forward that doesn't happen, that we get it crystal clear that exhibit is probably removed from that contract, but the work has been completed.
Okay, and then I wanted to check with our engineer about Atlantic Pipe Services and that work, because that's part of the approval summary. I mean, the invoice approvals. Atlantic Pipe Services, that the work that they did in the estates is complete and done.
We're wrapping that up. I'm gonna go over that briefly in my reports.
So, but we have to, we're,
Approve paying their
Yeah.
invoices.
Is this
Yeah.
the final invoice?
It
it's,
appears to be, yeah.
just bear with me a second. Let me find.
David, what's in there is what you and I emailed and discussed, and you signed off on that particular payment.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so then I will move to approve the acceptance of the April 28th minutes, the financial statements for June 2022, and number 266 invoices and check register, unless, well, I will have
Okay,
it.
so I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I will second.
I have a motion, a second. The only thing that I saw on there, which I've discussed with Infomark, and I want to make sure it's clear, there were some late payments or late charges and fees on a credit card for late payment, and our audit report. So our auditor don't like to see paying the auditor late, guys.
I checked with accounting. Teresa, those will be refunded. You'll see it on your next month's invoices and check register. Those just should not have been on there. That was an Infomark issue, and you will not pay late fees.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that. I just wanted to verify that.
Of course.
Any other discussion? Again, I have my same concerns that Supervisor Castle expressed concerning the tree work by B&B, where we got 61 trees done. We should have gotten at least twice that, if not more. But it's water under the bridge at this point. I think it was, we should have done a better job designating the trees to be pruned and what they needed to do. But I think we need to find a different way to do that. I did like the first couple of about 5 or 6 houses they did, but then when it got closer and closer to the closeout of the contract, they started cutting more and more and charging more and more. So I just don't know if they're a good fit with us going forward, but we will put that in our lessons learned book.
We still need a second.
No, he seconded it, so I'm finishing the quick discussion. Any other discussion on the consent agenda? Not all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Hearing no opposition, passes unanimously. Next on the agenda are staff reports, the district engineers report. Step up to the microphone, Mr. Hampton.
Yeah, oh no, sorry, I don't know what page it is. 6A. Let me see if I can find
I'll just go back and reopen it.
323.
322 maybe.
Yeah, this report starts on 323. Okay, you want to go through it quickly?
Yep,
or do
yep.
you wanna-
I know it's been a couple months since we met, so I'll try to hit the high points. Good news is your House Bill 53 went in on time. Osceola County acknowledged receipt, and they've already submitted their documents to the state. And the good news on that one, I think we budgeted 6,500 and we came in at 3,500. So
Great.
the 3,000 you can spend on new sod. So neighborhood C1 and C2. This was the big milling resurfacing for all the alleyways. We had 22 plan owners download the bid documents, of which 8 to 9 were actually general contractors, all of them very well qualified in large companies. Unfortunately, nobody submitted a bid. We gave them, I think, 6 weeks to submit a bid, given how busy everybody is. And so from the few contractors I've talked to on the side, they're just all understaffed and overworked. And so they probably chose not to bid on something they couldn't perform, or maybe they couldn't hold their price long enough. So the question for the board is whether or not they want to wait till the market takes a slight dip or revisit this when the time is right financially. But this, again, the engineer's estimate with the bid alternates was roughly $650,000. And so I'll defer to the board on what direction they want to take on this one.
Can I pause real quick? Joe, did you find the,
Almost there. I'm gonna have to use a different system next month, sorry.
there's
It's on
I
323.
didn't know how to change that number. Every time I touch it, it goes to the other. So, but I'm at 333. There we go.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay.
I'll
So
call Dane if you can read that on his phone. That's
I can read it. Yeah, I'm good.
at this point, I'm leaning towards waiting another couple of months and then going back out to bid. Is there any objection to that?
I don't know that we have a choice,
I was,
really.
yeah, I was gonna ask, is there an alternate?
I don't think there is unless we want to, specifically target some folks to ask them for stuff that we know may have room, but I don't know that anybody has room. Everybody is just.
No, he put it out
snowed
for bid. and-
Yeah.
I mean, firms like Middlesex, Hubbard, Ranger, these are all big guys. And if they don't have the horses, we followed up with people like Junior Davis, who's right in your backyard. They said they were just too busy. So
Yeah.
they tend to try to wind down between Thanksgiving and Christmas. So if you want to revisit this the first of the year, I'll leave it up to the board. So
Okay,
Okay.
maybe we can ask our district manager to put something on the agenda for December or January to discuss this again.
Or how long before, if they're going to be ready to do something,
In December or
in
January.
December, how much lead time do you need? to go out
well,
to bid?
if we want to give them 4 weeks like we did last time, and you're going to ask them to hold their bids, that's the sensitive issue now, because they're all so busy. Holding bids for 60 or 90 days used to be the norm. We're lucky if we can get 30.
Yeah.
So by the time it gets to you guys, we meet, you approve it, and then it goes to Mike to do the contract. It's going to be 60 days, and a lot of them are just not willing at this point, since they're all fat and happy with business, to do that. So again, we can just judge it come the first of the year. If we advertise in January, we can take it to the February board, and maybe by March, they can start construction when it's not raining, which would be a good time, and it's a little bit cooler, but
Okay, so bring back to us, if we can have it on our agenda to put this back on in
the January board.
January board meeting.
Page 2 of my report. I'm not sure what PDF page number that is in your handout.
324.
Okay. Right before we had the hurricane season start on June 1st, I performed a site inspection on May 30th. I think it was Memorial Day. The chairman was nice enough to give me the utility vehicle to get around to the 25 ponds, which saved a lot of time. A couple of days later, I generated what you see as appendix attachment A, all those photographs. documents and notes of every control structure. I then forwarded that to Vincent and Brett. The reason I came out on July 7th with Brett was to see how things were coming with Vincent. They were making good progress on the structures that probably haven't been touched for years and years. I couldn't even find them. Vincent and his staff has done a great job going in the jungle and exposing some of these and getting them to function again. My goal is to do the exact same thing for the stormwater ponds located in the golf course, because they are your structures. But I felt the one, the subdivisions next to the homes were more important. That's why we did those first. So if you have any questions on all those numerous pictures I took with all the notes, everything that was highlighted in yellow were basically action items for Vincent, Brett, and his staff to tackle heading into the hurricane season here. So if there's no questions on that, I can move on.
Go ahead.
Next one is the change order number 2 request of the board. We continue to do, I think the last 2 months alone, we've done 11 different assignments. I got a list that we can talk about later, but we may want to discuss how we do this next fiscal year. If you keep me around as far as individual proposals for individual assignments. As you know, we've done significant construction plans for multiple projects under your continuing hourly authorization, which has required us to come back to the board several times for asking for more fees, but we have done, enough construction plans for over $1 million in construction projects. So I'm here at the board's discussion again for what I believe should be the final one to get us through July, August, and September, and discuss how you want to do this from the new fiscal year on October 1st. So
It's a big amount, $50,000.
it's
30,000. For the,
Change order number 1, proposal in the amount of
we've already
$50,000.
approved that one. This one's for the 30,000.
it's 30.
$30,000 number.
It's actually in attachment.
Yeah, it goes
Page
way back.
366 on.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dan.
To what, 66?
366.
Mhm.
66.
So it'll be 30,000. And, I think we need to work with you. I don't know if we can cut costs by having you appear by Zoom or selectively choosing, we've had a lot we need to address now. But as we start winding back down a little bit, maybe instead of having you travel all the way over, because right now, I think the meeting attendance is on average about $555 a meeting, somewhere in there. And the reports are 600 a meeting. So we may want to look at how we can do some cost savings. Your work is the greatest. I love it. And you're really moving us forward. And what I like to tell people when they call me up and go, well, what about engineers costing us an arm and a leg? I said, well, we deferred all of our engineering work for 20 years. We're playing catch up. And you're presenting us and producing some great base documents that we need that we will use in the years to come. And we're also, there was one big project in there that we did a lot of design work for that we just have decided we can't go forward with because it's just cost prohibitive.
Right. Plus we've done a lot of work for the milling and repaving, and that's.
And the other thing, that's going to pay dividends as we move forward. The other thing is that it's just, we've been in such neglect for so long without engineering expertise that have gotten us into real problems. If we had had the proper engineering oversight of our stormwater systems, hopefully the estates probably would not have ended up where it ended up and things like that. So, I try and explain to people that that's why, and we need, as both attorneys said, our main job is maintaining and improving the infrastructure of the district. And that's stormwater. All these engineering issues are one of our main focuses. So it's to be expected that in doing all this catch up, that it's going
To
to.
piggyback on that, Teresa, I probably average 3 or 4 assignments a year per CDD.
Mhm.
We've done 21 for Harmony in 12 months.
Yeah.
There's just been a
It's
lot going on.
So could you help us understand, because I'm just looking at the list here, what do we have left? All right, you've done the House Bill 53. We're putting C1, C2 milling and resurfacing on hold. Stormwater management has been completed. The estates is going to be something that is relatively minimal in terms of engineering. You're going to be working with Atlantic
Yeah,
Pipe
that-
Services.
yeah, the
Yeah,
estates
we'll
may
get to that in a
take-
second. You got
Because
audit
what
issues.
I asked you about that last meeting and how much work it
Well,
was going
there's,
to
the
take.
maintenance is easy. Whether you want to try to fix the problem is
That's what
completely-
I asked you. And you said it wasn't going to require a bunch of, documentation.
No, not on our part, but money for you guys. It's
Right.
going to be slip lining pipes, replacing pipes.
Right, but we're still on
Thinking
your
about
change
engineering.
order, right?
Mhm.
And the $30,000 you're asking, and I'm just looking at the other things. The Garden Road has been, put off, the RV and boat storage has been put off.
Village
The-
Trail put off.
Yeah, wetland conservation areas is, pretty much, sent to
Under-
another
yeah.
vendor in progress. So the reserve study, I don't know that there's much you need to do, so I'm just wondering what the $30,000 is for.
Well, the 30,000 is to finish the second site inspection for the stormwater master plan. Finish the action item lists for Vincent or a contractor. And hopefully get some direction on what you're going to talk about in a second on the estates, what we're going to do. So
Got a question. So is the issue that we're just not able to accomplish the projects that he's helping us navigate fast enough? Is that what's going on? We're just not getting through this list.
things are coming in for Garden Road, which I'll get to in a second. The bids came in high.
Mhm.
And the board wasn't ready to undertake that cost. The RV storage area, there's discussions back and forth whether the money to put into is worth what the revenue is going to get out of it. Those plans are pretty much done. Of course, the smaller scale stuff is the dog park, the intersection improvements.
Mhm.
There's, they're all listed here, but it's just the footbridges, the sidewalks, the stormwater infrastructure. I mean, it's just been a lot going on. And so to answer your question, Carol, site inspection number 2 for the master system, the action items for Infomark, and more discussion on the estates. And at that point, we got to pause and decide, what do you all want to do moving the next fiscal year on building stuff or not doing anything? Not that all the plans will be on the shelf waiting to be bid and built.
Mhm.
I guess it just, I don't know, I'm not an expert on this, we've been working with you for a number of months, and like Teresa said, your work is absolutely wonderful. I'm just trying to understand how the balance of the work is $30,000 worth of work, that's all. And
I'm already 10,000 into that with the last 2.5 months with the work, because we
I
haven't
see.
met in a month. So that's why I put the draft invoice in there of what's been done for the last 2.5 months since we met. So, and I'm not planning on spending it if I don't need to. I mean, if you guys tell me to take the foot off the gas, we'll slow it down and then wait till the new year to decide what we're going to do as a group. But they're
That's
just,
a not to exceed number, right?
yeah, it's not a lump
Yes,
sum.
but
Yeah.
where are we? Angel, where are we with budget to actual on engineering for this fiscal year?
Give me 1 minute.
Sure.
Yeah, I think we are seriously over because we weren't planning on doing the changes we did and incurring the estates and everything else. We should have suspected, but we didn't. So we are seriously over on the budget, but one of the problems we have with the way we've been doing the billing, instead of doing billing by projects, we've been just doing it monthly billings. And what's happening is all of the cost for the Garden Road and the resurfacing of the alleyways, and some of the other work, even probably the stormwater in the estates, all that money should have been billed as
Out of
reserves.
reserves. Yeah.
Because it was associated with a reserve project. So it shouldn't really be out of our day-to-day engineering. So I don't
And-
know if we can clean that up in our budgeting.
Well, I
documents.
wonder how much of the work that's left can at least be
Mhm.
associated to the
Yeah.
reserve account.
Well, we can adjust that to pull, and I think, David, if you can refine that list that you provide to Supervisor Castle on the breakdown for projects, if you can update that, then we can look at that for the different projects.
So Teresa, board members, there are some things that need to be reclassed. I've discussed this with Teresa. I'm working with accounting now to get some stuff reclassed, not only with engineering, but some other things as well throughout your budget. Engineering currently, as of June 30th, you're sitting at $89,211.
And what was our budget number?
20,000. Now, you guys already had that budgeted before you even had your new engineer. That was a budget that was already set prior to you switching engineers.
Yes.
So that's where you are currently. Now, some of that, as Teresa stated, needs to be reclassed, and we could class it to actual things that it needs to be classed as opposed to just a lump sum in your engineering line item.
Right. Do we have any idea what percentage or how much of the $90,000 that we spent might be reclassified? I'm just trying to be able to justify another $30,000 when there's been so much uproar in the community about how much we're spending on engineering.
Well, again, Claire, I'll go back to, we've done over
I
$1
ha-
million. I mean, I have to educate the public, not to you. You have undertaken over $1 million worth of projects. The rule of thumb on the street is 10 or 12% of that is engineering fees. So we're still well below that with the efficiencies going on, but you guys are tackling some large projects. I mean, I'm dealing with typically fences, cracked sidewalks, little typical CDD stuff. You guys are almost like literally a small city with milling and resurfacing, roadway redone, stormwater systems.
I'm just looking over this table, it's easily 60 to 70,000 that really should go over to the reserve project
I agree.
line item.
How much?
60 to
70.
70,000.
It's about $73,498.
Just about, approximately.
Just about.
It goes to
Why,
reserve.
thank you,
Okay,
Angel.
so
Mark, you
that
can
means that we'd be below budget at this point,
Right,
right?
that's right.
All
So
right.
if we get our budgeting straightened out, and again, one of those other line items is pool resurfacing. It looks like we spent 5 times our annual budget on the pool when actually all that
It's a
pool
reserve item.
resurfacing is a reserve
Yeah.
item. So we just need our accounting folks to get our budget docs in shape.
All right, I'll move to approve the change order. Number
Second.
2.
I have a motion to approve and a second. Who was the second? Dane was the second. To approve, any further discussion on change order number 2
From Pegasus Engineering.
for Pegasus Engineering? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Hearing no opposition, passes unanimous.
Thank you very much, board. All right, the big ticket item, the estates. We have multiple things going on, and maybe after this one, I'll kind of step aside, but first one's Regatta Homes. When I was out there a couple of weeks ago with Brett, it's still a mess with their lack of sediment and erosion control. I don't know how hard you want me to crack down on them, if you want Vincent to be the bad guy, if we want to call the county in, but the builders are just doing sloppy work. I'm sorry. And the other builder, Millennium, I'm not sure if they even went out of business. They haven't been out there in months to do any work. So I hate seeing this stuff when we're spending so much money to keep your infrastructure back in shape when we have builders who really quite honestly don't respect the CD and private property issue. So again, I'll defer to the board how you want to handle this.
Do we have anybody who's good at talking to, because I know David has already gone through the county folks at the staff level. Is it time for us to start discussing this with the county manager or, and that would be on your level, Angel. And then if we get no response from him to correct these enforcement by the county, then we can start with the county commissioners.
Code enforcements?
We could talk to code enforcement and see if they can do it, but I'm thinking about upping it to more of a county manager and political level if we're not getting any movement on the staff level.
All right, that's perfect. Sean, will you make a note, please?
Okay.
All right, page 4. Vincent and his staff were able to fix that quote hole that was in a gentleman's front yard at between 7157 and 7159. I believe he was here a couple of months ago. You had some cones around it. They did a great job pouring the concrete, putting the recessed cap in there, and that problem has been rectified.
But there are about 8 or 10 more of those.
There's others in private
So,
property or open space. The
some of
question-
them are in the right of way, yeah, too. So Vincent, are you doing a review to locate all those?
It's like, also, can you repeat it again, sorry?
In the estates, there was that under drain and it was an open pipe in our right of way or the right of way that we have the easement over. And the county has said, for whatever reason, that they've been really good to work with us, and all of a sudden they said,
Well, they'll do everything but the under drains.
right, they won't do the under drains. So we need before the concrete truck rolls out here to do more sidewalk pads, we need to identify all of those locations where we have that same incident or situation where this happened. And get them identified, flagged, so they can form them up and do the same.
I'll give you a
things for them.
map, Vincent. I have a map with dots on it, and you can go right to them and then do a bunch of those 2 foot by 2 foot concrete pads with a cap and.
Actually, I don't remember exactly, that was 2 weeks or 1 week and a half ago. So one of them was 2 by 2, was it concrete, it was built.
Yep.
So that was covered. They have a cap that is.
Yeah, that's the same thing at different
Yeah.
locations. So I'll give you the map that has all those locates. So.
Because, again, that ends up being a liability issue for us, that we don't want a child to drop a leg in and break a leg or something.
All right, next bullet item, after Vincent and his staff and Infomark has cleaned all the surrounding brush and vegetation and trees around the 14 inlets outside the right of way. The goal was to hopefully put down some riprap around them to protect them so they don't get silted up again. And I think I talked to Brett whether they would be comfortable doing that work. Brett, correct me if I'm wrong, but you thought that maybe we should outsource that to a contractor. But
Yeah, that's not something we want.
something to be discussed come October 1st.
Does that need to be done after we do all the repair work, so that
Yes,
when they're doing the,
yes.
okay? So
That's why
just
it's not
in
immediate
timing.
now.
Yeah.
And lastly, we got the final round of CCTV inspection videos from Atlantic Pipe Services. The one lady who complained that the pipe wasn't inspected, we found out why there was an issue, because whoever installed the fence, the post goes through the pipe at all the different
Oh, my
locations. where the post
goodness.
is, So so that pipe won't be able to be slip line. It'll have to be removed and replaced, unfortunately. And whether or not you go back years later after the fence company, I'm not going to go down that path.
That's
So,
not gonna-
all right, garden roads on hold, RV storage areas on hold.
Wait, go back to, so what needs to happen there now?
So what we're going to generate next meeting is what pipes need to be slip lined and which pipes have to be replaced for capital projects for next year for the estates.
Okay.
Okay.
Because there's all plastic pipes that have been compromised either during construction or after construction. So
Okay, thank you. That's the
Sure.
memorandum or?
it'll be like a 1 or 2 page memorandum with photographs and a map showing what pipes and the length of pipes and things like that. So.
Okay.
And then you'll be able to give us scope of work so we can,
Yeah, it would be a 1, 2 page, we'll put in the street, we'll solicit bids. Companies like APS are the guys that do that kind of work. So it won't be your general contractor, it'll be companies that do slip lining and stuff
Right.
like that. So.
Yeah. Okay, great.
No direction on garden, that's on hold until fiscal year. RV storage is on hold. Wetland, I believe Catherine was out there last week with South Florida and things are going as far as I know.
This week, yeah.
This week, okay. The dog park, I put here a listing, Carol, you had asked what is left to be done. So unfortunately,
it's a
for just a
lot.
fountain for a dog,
Yeah.
this is all the steps that Lake Tahoe's asking the board to go through.
No,
And,
I propose that we table it until
Okay.
next fiscal year.
And we have really nice signs that tell people to bring their own. dogs.
Should we get Colgan?
I'm thinking we might want to put it out just like a water container. Yeah, my son says just it'll be
Like golf course
cheaper.
used to do that, the big igloos and you
Right.
pull the tab.
It'd be cheaper just to put in a small shade structure over one of the benches and a rain barrel off of it and then use the rainwater.
Yeah,
dogs,
what they're asking us for to make a tap or a hose bib is.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. I couldn't believe
Well,
that was.
Is that something we can add then, to get a shade structure over one of the benches, I guess the bench that's more out in the open, not the one under the pine trees, and get a rain barrel there with a spigot at the bottom? The new dog park, yeah. Of course.
And that's
Okay,
it.
great.
I'll wrap it up since we got a lot more on the agenda. So thank you very much. Welcome aboard, new members.
Thank you, David.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Oh, the Cherry Hill swale, I just wanted to touch on right now. I went out to visit it. The torpedo grass that's growing adjacent to it is now growing into it very nicely and it appears to be draining fine. So I don't know that sod is necessary.
It tries a way to work itself out. Welcome aboard, Mike.
All right. District council's report. We have the written report. We have the printout from the clerk of the court's office. It doesn't do us any good. So just at this point in time, we have new council on and we'll be moving forward with those.
I just would like to know if council has any thoughts they'd like to share with us at this meeting based on what they've seen in our previous reports.
Yeah, I mean, I think what I'm going to do after this is on my dime is reach out to each one of the board members and spend some time, introduce myself and also get an idea of what are the concerns that you've had over the last year and kind of crystallize those. And I do that on an individual basis. And then I could speak more coherently on that. I mean, I didn't understand the real estate stuff that was in there in terms of just a printout from the county. Like I said, I can share with the board an example of the due diligence chart that we use that tracks the conveyances and tracks the easements so that we're looking at a reference in real time rather than researching something, whatever happened 10 years ago, because that never usually works out very well. So at least at this point, until I have those conversations, I don't feel like there's projects that I've been tasked with at this point in time, other than negotiating the final terms of the contract. But again, I'll reach out to each one of you individually. There won't be a charge for that, for me to get oriented as well as what the issues are. So that would be my suggestion. If there's something that you want me to look at, before that, I'm happy to do that too.
Well, the only other thing that comes to mind now is familiarizing our two new board members with sunshine laws and whatever else they need to know about in order to not be breaking the law.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that now, or I can call you tomorrow and do that. It's up to the chair whether you want to take the
I
time to do
think
that now.
individually
Yeah.
would probably be
Yeah.
better.
And we
That
have
way
a-
they can ask questions.
We have a new supervisor notebook too
Good.
that we
Perfect.
provide, and I'll just,
Oh,
since
fantastic.
I'm new, I'll provide it to all the supervisors. One thing I don't understand in terms of your new rules or your rules of procedure that you may have adopted in the past. I mean, this issue of the roads came up where you receive no bids. The rules that I draft for my district say, if you don't receive any bids, that's your green light to go out and direct contract with whoever you want. So you just go and negotiate. And so you don't have to advertise or do anything like that. That
Oh,
is
that's
something that's
interesting.
permitted in Florida if you have it in your rules. I don't know if you have that. And that's standard in ours because we run into this from time to time. And And usually boards like, oh no, we didn't get anything. I'm like, no, you actually, have the ability now to go out
Right.
and negotiate prices
But
where you
David,
can't ordinarily.
but David approached Junior Davis, for
Right.
example, to
Yeah.
say, well, you didn't bid,
Well,
but. did
Well, I
you
think it
want
was,
But
to?"
there
it
might
was,
be
it was
some
to
other-
submit
right.
bids and generally what I've found is when you're in direct negotiations with the contractor and the contractor is going to take that a little bit more seriously versus, okay, I'm going to devote the time to prepare a proposal. And I'm going to be one of 6
Right.
and I may or may not get it versus we want to work with you. Let's see if we can, come up with a fair deal. And David's going to have his, he's going to have the pulse of what the current prices are and things of that nature. So
Right.
that's something that I can look at in your rules
Sure.
of procedure, see if there's something
Yeah.
there, but that just kind of jumped out at me.
Sure.
Wonderful.
And I think we're,
Is
we're,
that independent of the price, the project, if it's above or below the standard, that applies to anything?
It applies, it does not apply under the CCNA, but it does apply under construction projects.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, it could be I've had a $10 million contract. We got no bids. And we're like, we went out to just direct contract on that because that was permitted under our rules.
but we still may want to wait on like the road, the alleyway
sure.
repaving because the cost may come down
Yeah.
by.
Is there a time limit associated
Well, we
with that
have
no
to
bid?
amend
How
our
long you
rules
can
first.
then?
I think you need to address it at your next meeting.
Has to be in our
Because you really didn't make a decision
Right.
to re-advertise or anything. You just deferred the item until in the future. So I think what I'll do is look at the rules and I'll tell you what your options are at the next meeting.
Great. Thank you so much.
Oh my God, that's gonna be awesome. Thanks, Mike.
And don't
Thank
forget the
you.
venue.
What's that?
Don't forget the venue.
The venue.
Oh. She won't forget the venue.
Don't worry, I won't. I'm looking. I look forward to another visit to Tallahassee where my alma mater is, but not on CDD business.
And I'll give my cards, the chair has my contact information, I'll give you all my cards. And then I would say, if you want to email me, when is a good time for you? Is evenings better, morning better? And then we can just work out a time, I'd set aside an hour and we can talk and that'll help me get oriented.
That sounds
Thank
good.
you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, the next item on our agenda is C Field Manager Report.
Thank you.
So Brett or Vincent?
Vincent's coming.
Yeah, and before Vincent gets going, I'll give a quick update too. Like we talked about earlier, the new pressure washer has arrived. It's been going in full force, pretty constant. The AWC, the aquatic weed contract work is well underway. Brad attended a meeting with Catherine last week, and when I was out with David, we saw significant, I'm gonna just call it blatantly, killing of Old World Climbing Firm, which is great. Vincent and staff are continuing to chase Kogan grass. There's a couple of areas where David and I walked past the dog park, big dog park, back that way on that pond. There's some areas that if you're a resident across the lake bank, you're going, what in the world is going on? It's nuked pretty good. Obviously, we're going to continue chasing that as well. Grinding and panel replacements. Again, grinding was completed and panel replacements started. Those should be wrapping up end of August. We had some concrete supply issues and trying to keep our costs down. We were able to reschedule that. And again, that'll be end of August. We haven't had a lot of concerns from those. We did unfortunately leave some stakes up a little too long. Those have been cleared and Vincent and staff know what's going from there. The field reports themselves, when you look at June and July, there is a lot of landscape related stuff in there. It's really actually all landscape stuff. I'm not going to beat around the bush. Vince and I have had conversation here recently too. We're going to be improving that to where it's more encompassing of a lot of things. We're looking at facilities, pools, and so on. Stuff that the field staff needs to be addressing as well and adding into their report so you all can see that. I did start sending out the weekly updates again. I did that mainly because we have some new board members. So I felt that it was important to see the weekly updates coming out so field staff can see that. And obviously we'll get the new email address set up for the newest board member. And again, down the road, we can stop that if that's pertinent. If you feel that you're getting enough information, we can always pull back. I will touch real fast on the splash pad. That's been a little bit of a pain for us. In May, we replaced the solenoid kits. There's 14 of them. Early June, we actually had it have issues again, and Spies came back out, felt that it was the VFD computer, which was causing issues with the pump, meaning basically that VFD controls the flow and how those splash pad fountains go up and down. So we did have a vendor come out from Automation Logics, this gentleman's named Keith. He came out, hooked up to the VFD, found no issues. He then cycled through it. He's like, listen, the pump's kicking on. There could be an issue with the impeller in the pump. And it looks like that pump has never been replaced. It's an original from when that splash pad was built. So it could be the impeller, but the problem we're running into is, again, we reached out to Spies. Spies is like, we can't get out there till the end of the summer. We're just so busy right now with pools, with other fountains. We can't get out there till the end of summer. We've reached out to Freeport and Florida Water Features. Freeport's was responsive. Then just yesterday, they gave us a name of a pump vendor in Palm Beach. Vincent reached out to, and the guy's like, yeah, I'm not doing anything with that. Florida Water Features has been non-responsive, so we're continuing to chase and try to find someone that can work on this pull this pump and try to repair this and possibly issue with the impeller. He's also mentioned that since it's so old, that their concern is if they take the pump out, that there's going to be fittings and other stuff that are damaged, since it's, again, almost 20 years old. So I did want to approach that with the board. Every week we're circling up with these vendors, trying to see when we can get somebody out there. I do know that obviously labor is impacting the ability for some of these vendors to get out there, but we're chasing them and following up with them on that end. That's a very high level.
So right now you're looking for somebody to replace the impeller in the pump, or the pump altogether in the splash pad. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, you can either pull the pump apart to inspect the impeller. If the impeller is bad, just replace the impeller, or we just replace the entire pump.
And what's the expected service life on a pool pump like that?
Yeah.
It's a good.
I
know.
Is it simple
I know.
as somebody from Pinch a Penny to come in and replace the pump?
I don't think it's that. It's not just your normal pool pump. It's a bigger pump, and it's actually a metal cased pump versus like a plastic, like a pool pump that you would see. It's a residential pool pump. It's metal encased. It's a beefy pump for sure. But we reached back out to Freeport today after that contact that he gave us didn't really help us. Hopefully he'll follow up, and I'm going to call Jack again tomorrow from Florida Water Features, and then we'll just keep looking. I'm going to talk to Russ at Celebration. They had an issue, but it wasn't necessarily with their splash pad pump.
Okay,
So,
we need to call the city of St. Cloud. They may have somebody either on staff or on call that does splash pads, since they have several of them. So I'll get with you after the meeting on this.
yeah, Freeport is who they use. That's who I've spoken to. He told me that they installed
For
the city of
Osceola
St. Cloud.
County or the city of St. Cloud?
He's installed the splash pads at both.
Okay.
He does work for him, yeah.
Okay. We've got a TEM invoice.
That's a quote, yeah. So that's a quote. That's at Buck Lake. It is higher than the procurement number, and we've reached out to 2 other vendors, correct, Vincent?
Sorry?
We've reached out to 2 other vendors, Door King vendors, and they each want to charge, I think, between $185 and $195 an hour to put together an estimate. to see what this issue is. But what TEM saying is that there's probably a lightning strike, hit that board, fried it, causing the issue with the gate not locking at Buck Lake.
Okay, is there a way for them to take the board and test it? Because we ended up with this problem. We footed the bill for a whole new board and found out that later it was somebody had tripped the GFI. And yet we still had to pay for the whole board. So,
Vincent, can you follow up with TEM and see if they will test the board prior to replacing?
Yep.
okay. And if the board is fried, is the board willing to?
Move to approve this service code from TEM Systems for $3,642 to get the system working again at Buck Lake.
Okay, I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a second. All in favor? I'm sorry, any discussion?
Just the gate having lightning issues, I want to say it's the third or fourth or fifth time in the,
Yeah.
maybe 6 years I've lived here, I've, heard of this happening is between David or even myself, I'd just be curious to kind of be like, looking over the shoulder with what they find and what they say is the actual problem with it versus is there some other underlying issue that causes it to keep happening or really truly getting hit by lightning all these different times.
Yes, and I'm curious too, because I read several of the TEM invoices on Avid, and some of them indicated that our network server provider needed to do something with their firewall to allow access, and all this stuff needed to be done. But then they close it out as not being done because we never got back to them. And TEM is getting very expensive for us. I'm ready to slap a combination lock and issue the combo out to our residents. Because this is getting ridiculous. But Dan, would you mind working with them since you understand the boards and the other circuitry
I'd
and
be
stuff?
happy to.
Thank you.
Wonderful. So I've got a motion and a second to approve if in fact the board is fried. And again, I am willing to pay $185 for a second quote, because as we saw in our plumbing issues, we went from quotes of 8,000, 4,000, and final, we paid $850 to fix it. So 185 to get that 850 was well worth it savings. So let's not poo-poo the procurement policy on that basis.
So do we not move forward with this until we ask Brett or Vincent to get more bids?
I don't know, at this point in time, I'm a little concerned leaving that dock area totally accessible and not secured at all. So if it is a fried board, let's go ahead and replace it, and then let's figure out what a better option is to do all this. Okay, I have a motion, a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Hearing none. Approved unanimously. And again, that's.
One last thing,
ahead.
with the field stuff, and making the adjustment. I did send an email out, I believe it was yesterday. Vincent should have copies of a project list he's been tracking since May that field staff has been working on. Those will be items that'll start to get captured in the field report, so you all can, physically see them versus seeing a spreadsheet. I want to say there were 78 items, 49 of them were field related items. So over half of them were field related items. And of those 49 field staff related items, 46 have been completed. So they're staying busy, even though, mitigation work's being done right now by AWC or did I say that right? AWC. And then obviously, the grinding project. So they're staying extremely busy. Quick update on the swim club repair as well. The insurance update on that. The Mark Davis construction has pretty much finalized the main repair issues on that wall. Vincent and staff inspected those two restrooms, got them really cleaned up, and they are now back open for use as of today. The only thing we're waiting on is the louver outside. And Vincent, I believe you said they're coming back in a couple weeks for that.
Mhm.
Okay. So
And that's
a
covered
good.
by insurance, right?
Correct. They're in the driver's insurance, and our insurance was involved in that. I believe we had to pay the deductible, which they're going to go back to the driver's insurances and collect. So it will be at zero cost to the district, all said and done.
Okay, now we're on the consideration of the basketball resurfacing proposals.
Well, actually,
Oh,
just
sorry.
before we move on to the site audit, there's something that that I've mentioned previously that I don't see on here, and I'd like it added, and a resident mentioned it somewhere, maybe on Facebook or something, is all the white recycled fencing along 5 Oaks Drive and along 192. I believe those are CDD property, not on the west side of 5 Oaks where the townhouses are. I believe that's not CDD property, if I'm not mistaken, but on the east side of 5 Oaks and then all along 192. Some of those fences look really terrible, and I've requested they be power washed once or twice, and I don't see it on the list, and I'd like it added.
Yeah,
please.
because actually, we received a new pressure washer, and I have the field staff working first in the west side, the fence in front of the 192. When
So they're doing that now.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's.
Okay,
all
but
we
I
need
don't
to know
see
is
it.
They are on their
it's-
way to.
Okay.
They're
I
on
don't
their
see
way.
it on
We
the
had to wait
list.
and get the pressure
Right,
washer.
but
So
it's
if you
not on
can
the
add that
list.
on the list.
Sure.
That would be great. Okay,
Okay.
next item is the consideration of the basketball resurfacing proposals.
Yeah.
There are 3 proposals in. AA grinding, 2-year warranty, 9,000. They'll fill the cracks and the depressions and level it out with a 1% slope for drainage for 9,000.
Well, they say, we were talking about AAA.
Yeah.
Well, what they say was court must have a minimum of 1% slope in order to guarantee. I think they're saying that that's our obligation.
No, they will make sure that it slopes 1%.
Okay.
That's a standard slope that you
Yeah,
have to have.
and I had a question for David about these, using fill, grinding using fill, or just using fill to fill the areas that have
You
dips
mean
in them.
levelers? Uh-huh.
Yeah, and whether that's durable.
They usually use a more granular material, like small pebbles or something to fill those voids before they cover it up with the material versus just pure sand. So,
Yeah,
not
that,
specific, I'm not sure, but
right. They have a specific leveler that's used for these concrete surfaces, and they've got to rough it up in order for there to be good adhesion. And that's one of the things that's important is that we have a warranty too. We have ACE, which is at 26.5. If you upgrade to make sure you get a warranty. Sports surfaces at 7,800, but there's no warranty, and they want 50% up front. And they have a disclaimer, not responsible for anything. So I would
If
not.
you go with sports surfaces, because I've dealt with it currently, your 50% upfront should be like deposit, not a fee.
So I only see sport surfaces and
Yeah, I only see
AAA.
two
I don't
quotes.
see ACE in here at all.
ACE is a one little piece stuck in the middle.
It goes from AAA to sport surfaces.
ACE
It's
is
the
on
email.
426.
Yeah, it's right above.
Page 426.
Yeah, sorry.
Sorry. yes. But they give no guarantee. They don't provide any
Oh, yeah.
leveling.
Oh my goodness.
You can-
Yeah, but it's in between. sport
Right,
surfaces.
yes, it's tucked
That's
in
what we
between.
I thought it was,
Why?
it had to do with sport surfaces.
No, that's a separate one. So I don't know, David or Mike, have you dealt with any of these? It sounds like you've had some dealings with sport surfaces.
Yeah, I mean, the work that the engineer had worked with them on before for the work was fine and everything. Our issue was I had a district who started a project like a basketball and tennis court project. And then they changed it and then didn't have a need to use sports surfaces anymore at all. And the way our contract was written, fortunately, was that we had to pay them for permitting. And we paid them a $750 permitting fee on top of the actual cost of the permit. And we had to pay 50% up front. Well, when I saw that, I said, well, we'll pay you 50% deposit, but it
Right.
is not a fee. So we put
So
that in
you were able
there.
to get it
Then
back.
the board decided not to move forward with the project, and so we're in the process of getting that deposit back. We don't.
So you don't know what their work's like.
No, I mean, the engineer had used them before and said the work, he represented to the board that their work was good.
Okay.
That's what I was told.
Yeah. My only concern with sports surfaces is they got a disclaimer because it's a pre-existing court that they're not responsible for anything and there's no warranty whatsoever. So
I'm sorry, with whom?
sports surfaces.
No warranty, right?
So, are there any motions to move forward or where that, I must admit, I keep going down there and this basketball court is a hugely popular.
Yeah, it's a danger when it's wet.
It is, it's a real danger and it's so bright white that the sun shines on it and it's very difficult for people to see. It definitely needs an upgrade. This would come out of our reserves as it is a long-term item.
Yeah, well, sports services at $7,800 is the least expensive.
Well, we have a 2-year
Warranty.
workmanship with the AAA that seems to be worth this, the slightly higher cost.
Yeah, I'm leaning towards the AAA from what I read and all the work that they are going to do as far as reworking that surface. So do I have a motion?
Do we need to pick a color?
You,
I
yes,
think it
you
mentions it
will.
here, yeah.
I would go with a nice forest green or dark green or whatever.
That's going to absorb heat.
Yeah, that's.
I talked with some of the guys in the basketball court.
That's who needs to make a decision on the color.
And they say they want to move forward the dark gray.
Dark gray,
Yeah,
okay.
so I can reach them again
They're the
tomorrow.
ones playing on it.
Not Longhorn orange or anything like that.
Orange and
No,
blue?
no, please.
Black and gold, dark and gold.
No, two-tone, no.
Green and.
Okay, I'm sorry, it's getting late, so let's.
Well, but
I move to accept or approve the AAA estimate at a cost of $9,000 to repair the basketball court.
I second.
Okay, I have a motion to second for AAA. Any further discussion? Okay, will
well,
it be?
yes, we could have them do all of the markings on the court in blue and orange.
Oh, boy.
Okay.
I don't. Is my question would be, is the warranty really worth, an extra two, or what was it?
$1,200.
$1,200?
Well, it is hard to decide because AAA spells out what they're going to do before they put it down and the other one doesn't.
Yeah, that's what got me is that they were
Right.
very
It was
detailed
so
about.
detailed. That's what
Okay.
I lean toward them because when someone goes to the trouble to give the details, then it's been thought out. But
Well,
I don't know anything about these
Right.
companies, so maybe
right.
the other one was more of a letter after he spoke to you on the phone. So it was just a brief thing. So maybe they do all the same stuff. I don't know.
It could be
Has-
standard wording.
Yeah.
It could be. I have
Mm,
standard wording in the contracts
Yeah.
I write up, so.
Have either of you worked with AAA?
I've been working at AAA, but I think the warranty is worth it. We had some tennis courts done in another community. It looked like a washboard. It was horrible.
Oh, God.
There was no warranty.
Just
It
tough
is
luck.
what it is.
Wow.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
Thank you.
And do we want to decide on a color now or get input from you want to do the dark gray with
White striping.
white striping?
as the kids in Saturday morning.
Okay, we'll go down and poll.
We'll do a Facebook poll.
No, no.
Maybe one.
No.
I was joking.
So anyway, any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call a question for AAA $9,000 2-year warranty. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, all opposed? Hearing none, passes unanimously.
Just a point.
Yes, sir.
When you guys approve something like that, typically my boards will say, and now Mike, you go do the contract. I just want to make sure that was understood. So we're not just signing a proposal and giving it back.
No. All of it goes through you.
Okay.
Okay. District managers report.
All right, I know it's
I'm sorry.
getting late. Oh,
Hey,
go ahead.
Hold on just a minute, David has,
This may apply to either Brett or Vincent. When I drove her this morning, there was an 8-foot alligator crossing 5 Oaks going to the hole number 2 wet pond. Somebody else, is that a fish and wildlife issue or who?
that's Harmon.
You know, it's,
It's okay.
but we have
Friends.
cage gators, right? And unless they become a nuisance by following people or approaching people,
Or going to the school parking lot
Yeah.
and playground.
you know, unless they become a nuisance, our policy is,
Oh.
whoa,
Sorry about that.
leave them alone.
Is live and let live.
Okay, all right.
Thank you.
Thank you
the-
for letting us know.
Just don't.
Yes, I was running one day.
I got it.
This is several years
Sorry
ago.
about
I was running one morning at like, I don't know, 5:30, 5:45. And there was an 8-foot gator on the other side. We're running on the road, right? We're on the right side of the road in like the bike lane. And there's a gator right on the other side of the road.
There we go.
He was
All right.
huge crossing the street.
Yeah.
He was just, I was
It's
sitting there.
wonderful to see.
We ran real fast after that.
All right, Angel, you're up.
All right, real quick, I know it's late. I just had a couple of things. Welcome to the new board members. And it now is the perfect time, being that we do have new board members. I spoke to Teresa at length today. And I know we've been having a lot of things going on, and it's coming up on actually a little bit past a year. So we want to do an annual review. We can't do it obviously with the entire board. So what I've asked is if Teresa, the vice president, Chris Therese, myself, and Brett all are going to meet the week of August 8th. And we're going to kind of do an annual review. We're going to provide input on kind of, we want to streamline some things because as you know, you went from Bob Concar, you got me, Field, all within the last year. So things have kind of been status quo. And then now's a perfect time that you have a new, a couple of new board members. And we want to really go through a review, see what we can improve on, what we're doing well, and all of that. And being that the whole board cannot be a part of that, obviously, unless we do it in a meeting, I would ask that if any board members have any input, good, bad, otherwise, concerns, just general comments, anything, send those to me, please, so we can make those, that input, statements, concerns, anything a part of this meeting. Once we have this meeting, a full summary will be written up and it will be presented to you all, the entire board, of what came out of that meeting. We want to streamline some things with management on the management side as well as the field side. So that's kind of what we're looking to do. And now is a good time. We're going into the new fiscal year here in a few months. You've got new board members and we've been at this, with the changes for just at a year now. So I wanted to talk first about that. And if anybody can send me their stuff. Brenda, obviously Teresa covered Brenda with the minutes. So we'll see how that works. And I think that's really all I had.
Okay. The couple of things we're coming up to the public hearing for our
yes.
budget. So Dan, if you can put that August 15th meeting on the website. Now, the question I have for the board is we absolutely have to have a meeting on August 15th so that we can do that formal public hearing on the budget to meet time deadlines set up by the county and the state. But do you want to have that just for our public hearing? That quick meeting just for the public hearing, and then have our regular meeting at the end of the month? Or do you want to go ahead and make that our monthly meeting and cancel the one on the last Thursday of the month?
Just 2.5 weeks from now.
I know, it's a short turnaround.
So just to tag along what Teresa just stated, so the meeting on your 15th, obviously we have to approve your final budget at that meeting. But yeah, we need to know if you want to have the 2 meetings, because internally, I canceled your 25th meeting. Doesn't mean anything. It's already been advertised. We're just internally, I need to put it back on our calendar, and then we need to put it on your website. What that means to the district is there is an expense, obviously. You have to pay board members to be there. You've got, your council and engineer really don't need to be at the public hearing unless you all want them to be or need them to be. But we can do everything in the regular meeting on the 15th, or we can have 2 meetings. So
Can all of our staff and subcontractors support a Monday meeting as opposed to the usual last Thursday of the month?
well, yeah, I mean, they would all be available. And again, your council and engineer can attend via Zoom or in person, and it would just be your regular meeting with the budget in there as well. That's all it would be. As opposed to 2 separate meetings.
I'm okay with it, skipping the later meeting. But it is only in 2.5 weeks, so I don't know how much
Yeah.
we're gonna have to discuss.
Are
Because it's been
these-
2 months.
I've been to 2 meetings so far. Are they typically this long?
Yes.
Well, I'm hoping we had an extensive discussion
About the
for the
legal.
attorney. It
Okay.
would have been probably close to 45 minutes short without that.
Okay.
so.
The prior year, we had a hard limit of 2 hours. That's
Okay.
worth it.
I'm just, my thought is, well, if we're combining 2 meetings and we've got a 3-hour meeting here and an hour meeting there, then that's a pretty long meeting.
They wouldn't add up like that.
Okay, I don't know.
Yeah, essentially, you're not adding 2 meetings because you typically your budget public hearing is within your regular meeting.
Okay.
Normally, it
all
would
right.
have been tonight.
Yes, what happened this time is the deadline was missed, so we had to move your public hearing up to be able to meet the deadline, which
Gotcha.
moved it from your regular meeting to another date. So essentially, you would have had 1 meeting anyway.
All right, thank you.
Okay, so just quickly, we now have district legal counsel, district engineer. Are you available by Zoom on Monday, the 15th?
By Zoom, yes.
Okay,
Check real quick while you're-
wonderful. So, but whatever we need to post on the website, because originally we had posted that our public hearing for the budget would be tonight, but it's been moved to August 15th. So if you can,
Do you generally have very many
that.
people come to that?
no, typically there's nobody, but we're raising assessments this time. So,
But what good will it do people to come now? Because it has to be passed that night, right? I mean,
right, but
something-
we can adjust things. The
Oh,
whole
okay, you
point
still
is to
can,
hear what they
okay.
have to say and make any adjustments that we
Okay.
feel appropriate before we do that final vote.
And
Oh,
from-
I remember now. You can reduce something, but you
We
can't.
Exactly.
can't
change it.
increase,
Okay,
but
all
we
right.
can reduce.
I've tried to read some of the things to get up. to
Yeah.
speed, but, oh, I remember now. Okay.
On the 15th, I actually have 2 different meetings at 6:30, so I've already got somebody covering one of those.
Uh-huh.
I can try to, I definitely can get coverage,
Mhm.
and I'll try to make it meet, and have somebody cover it.
Okay, so that would be
Okay.
a consideration. Any other thoughts or ideas about having the meeting on the 15th?
Well, I
As-
would rather do it on the 15th.
On the
but
15th.
myself-
And
Well,
we-
because I'm going to town on the 24th.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't see any other issue with there being 5 or 6 weeks to the next meeting, especially since we just went, 8 or 9 weeks.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, I think we can manage.
sounds good to me.
Any other thoughts?
So-
Dane, I think it's your birthday. on the
Yeah, I'm just like debating.
I have another question.
Yes.
Procedural, I suppose, but let's say something came up and we're gonna have this large gap between meetings and from August 15th until the end of September. If something came up, could you have an emergency meeting? Is that something that you're allowed to do?
We
Yes.
can, or we just don't cancel the one on the last Thursday of August. We just kind of leave it floating out there just in case. And then if we need to have a meeting to address something that has come up in that time period, we could call everybody and say, hey, you thought you had the day off, but you guys.
Okay.
Does that make sense, Angel?
Yes, we can absolutely leave it calendared. It's already been advertised. That's totally fine. But when you decide right now, tentatively, we're only going to have the 15th meeting. And then if you need to call the last meeting, we can,
Okay.
if needed.
So on the website, we'll be calling the 15th meeting our regular monthly meeting.
Correct.
And then all that, week or week
Right.
plus ahead of that.
But we also have to make clear that the public hearing, the budget, public hearing on the budget
Yes.
that is a part of that meeting.
And if
Correct.
People show up, we can go back to our regular meeting.
Exactly. That's exactly right.
Yep.
Okay, do I need a motion or? we?
No.
Okay,
As long as all the board is under the same consensus that you all agree that the 15th will be your regular meeting unless something comes up and then we can hold the 20, whatever day that is, 25th.
and we'll
Yeah.
try and keep that meeting as short as possible, everybody, okay? In respect to Mr. Short.
To my wife.
Yes. All right, also, I wanted to bring up quickly, because I think we have to have a decision now. It looks like, well, because of an assessment increase, we had to do a full mailing. That's gonna be a little pricey for us, I do believe. I don't know what that cost is. But there is an option for us, even though we do not do a millage. But the county is now requiring all new CDDs to sign on with the trim notice process, which means that we have to meet certain deadlines again. But it also gives us the ability that instead of a letter directly from us going out, which is a significant expense, our assessment adjustment actually shows up on the trim notice that the county sends out with all the county and the city and the water management district and the school boards. And it saves us an enormous amount of money in those situations. We can vote on it to go forward with that. And then Infomark can then adjust their budgeting timelines and everything to match that process. Angel, is that something you'd like to comment on, or?
No, you covered it.
Okay,
I'm not hearing any downsides.
yeah, I don't know of any, and it could save us a considerable amount of money.
Yeah, the only thing you lose is the ability to convey a message, which you would just do through other.
Mhm.
through-
But then we get lost in the list too.
You do.
The thing I like about it is even if we're not increasing our assessment, it lets the homeowner know, what it is, because it's frustrating to look, okay, I got my trim notice, here's all the things I'm gonna have to pay in my tax bill. Then I see my tax bill and, oh my gosh, this assessment from the CDB is in there. Why wasn't it in my trim notice? So I think it just better informs the property owners and taxpayers out there. So I would entertain a motion to join the trim process.
So moved.
Seconded.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, passes unanimously. So Angel, if you will direct the folks to get us in that process.
Will do.
Okay. Our monitoring reports are in with the district manager's report. I don't know how closely you looked, but our per meter charge just for the meters has gone up in the last 3 years, 50%. Now that's $13 to $19, but we have a lot of meters out there. I've asked Angel and staff to reach out to OUC. There may be the option to do a flat billing instead of a bunch of different meters all over Harmony. And see if that's something that OUC would be willing to work with us on. Also, our maintenance charges, again, we were expecting an increase, but just in the last from May to June 2022, all of our maintenance charges for all the streetlights and everything went up 7%.
Wow.
So it's going up fast, and I don't expect it to slow down. So just be aware when we get ready for that public hearing. There's just, I think we're going to be in a real crunch if we start cutting too much out of what we've already laid out, because it's going up and we haven't even started the new fiscal year. Toho water bill, we've had some high water usages. We've been working with Barbara. There was a really high one at the swim club Cabana because of toilet issues. We've gotten the toilets adjusted. I spoke with Barbara and she can definitely adjust the one bill that went from, single and double digits to 500 and some odd dollars. So that one's going to get adjusted. She's putting in a request to adjust the second one down to save us some money. We also have some irrigation breaks that they're going to adjust. One in the front, it was a huge mainline break, was like $24,000
Wow.
in water fees. And they're willing to adjust that as long as we provide them with proof that we made the repair. So Toho is being a good cooperative partner with us on that, even though they won't tap a line for a dog. Which I don't know. I'm going to ask Barbara about that tomorrow and see if there's some magic she can pull out of her hat. Old business, the Buck Lake General Committee has us, Harmony West has asked us to reconsider. We had turned them down. And for our new members, Buck Lake is not owned by the state. It's owned and was turned over to Harmony West. But we do have a use agreement with them that allows us full use as long as we're sharing the costs. There's a committee of 2 on the Buck Lake Committee, one from Harmony West and one from us. And if anybody wants to replace me on that, I'll be more than happy to entertain that. But so far we've worked with them. Unfortunately, they insist on using a lake management company that we've had bad history with in the past. But we did agree in the past to go ahead and share the cost for the actual application and maintenance. There was another charge they wanted us to share 50% in, and that was $3,300. It's a not to exceed a $3,300 for the biotech folks to provide support services. And that means if Harmony and Harmony West decide they need biotech to advise them on something about the lake, that money would go for that. We had turned that down. They've asked now for us to consider it with proviso language that will agree to it, but any expenditure of money only happens after biotech gives us an estimate on what we're asking them to do, and both Harmony and Harmony West agree to expend that money. So in the interest of goodwill and common unity, I would ask the board consider approving this language.
Just a quick question. That
Sure.
$3,300 is a one-time fee.
It is a fee available in the next fiscal year. And it will never exceed 3,300, but it may not be expended at all. The plan or the hopes is that we only have one meeting and then we don't even need biotech to show up at that meeting. The agreement they said is if they need biotech to show up to talk to them about the Buck Lake Committee at their board meeting, that they will pay that. If we want biotech to show up here to report to us on what's happening, then we pay that. This is only would be used if we both agree that we need their input on a particular issue for the committee.
I'll move to approve.
Okay, I have a motion to approve. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
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 I know.
I know.
Hold your nose.
Hold your nose.
Any opposition?
I would if I didn't have a mask on.
Hearing none, it is approved and we'll let the committee know that. Item discussion of providing supervisors with read-only access to Infomark's tracking system. Again, there's a tracking system. Instead of getting a quarterly report on projects, we would have, it would be basically in the cloud or somewhere, kind of like Avid. The supervisors could go and check and make sure that that complaint called in by Joe down the street, that we make sure it's being addressed and it's in the tracking system like the one for the fence. We could see that ongoing in real time. And that way, because there have been some instances where things have either dropped off because of a misunderstanding or whatnot and not been followed up on. That way we could just keep an eye on it because we have to report back. Then we wouldn't have to contact Vincent or Brett saying, hey, Joe, my constituent wants to know what's happening with this project. You wouldn't have to bother them. You could look right on the tracking system and see it.
So-
Yes, Angel?
We don't currently have a system like that with Avid, but what we can do to make it simple for read-only for supervisors to be able to do, we can do a Google Docs drive or a Dropbox or something of that sort, to where the supervisors would be able to log on to that and read as it gets updated and in real time. So we can definitely do one or the other. And I'll get with Brett and we'll figure out which one's the best and most user-friendly for everyone. And then we'll let the board know which one.
I vote for Dropbox. I have trouble with Google Docs.
Okay, and that's fine. So we'll set it up and then we'll send something out to the board and then we'll kind of go from there, if that's okay.
That sounds great. You have your direction from the board and we're excited to get access to that. Also, just a reminder, Angel, if you could set up training for our 2 board members on Avid, that would be great.
Yes, Sean, please note that.
Okay. The next item on the agenda, which unfortunately being the late time, I would suggest
We table.
tabling. You've got the photos now. You can go home. You can make recommendations or write in recommendations for the next board meeting of what you would like those new signs to say in those different locations.
Can I just ask what you
Yes.
mean? It says repurposing.
Yeah,
you
these are
replacing them?
informational signs, and you
Yeah.
can see in the agenda what they are, and you drive by them every day, and they're starting to look really old and tacky.
Uh-huh.
Those were put up by the developers who are no longer here, and they're on CDD property. So what our idea is to take what's there now and replace it with something You know, it could be, that first one as you come in the west entrance could say, welcome to Harmony, and maybe give some information. Some of them can still be directional signs to the community school, the golf course, you know, whatever, the pools or whatever. But use your imagination and come up with
Well,
some.
when it said repurposing, I thought you wanted ideas of what to do with the old signs.
Well,
we want
yes, in
New
a sense.
information on the old signs.
Oh, we're
Exactly.
putting the information on the
Yes.
same.
Yes, we're
ones.
gonna
Okay.
use the same
Okay.
signs. They have this peel and stick stuff that goes up on
Okay.
them, so they're easy to change.
Gator crossings.
Yeah, Gator Crossing would be a good one. We've already dealt with the inside tree trimming. At the next meeting, I would like to talk about, like the board to consider what we're gonna do, if anything, with the trees in the right of ways on Dark Sky, Feathergrass, Middlebrook, and some of the other streets that are owned by the county. If we want to try and enter into an agreement with the county to maintain those, because it does not appear that the county is going to maintain those. And some of those streets, they don't have alleyways, although they do have ponds for us to maintain in the backyards. But it seems to be possibly inequitable if we're not taking care of those trees as well as all the others.
Well, yes, but
So-
isn't that, I mean, a question for the attorney is, we would be incurring a cost for something that didn't belong to us.
Yeah, I mean, if it's owned by the county, enter into an interlocal agreement, governments can divvy up maintenance responsibilities into something. That's all.
Yeah, it's kind of like what we do with the
Buck
median
Lake.
strip of 192.
Right, or Buck Lake.
Or Buckley, yeah. All right. Anything else in supervisor's requests that you'd like to request to be on next?
I'll keep it brief. While we're talking about looking at the signs, some of the informational placards, like at some of the trail entrances, are in desperate need of. being
Okay.
tidied
Yeah,
up.
so I had
Can
a
you
bunch of
go
those.
Toss the trailer. Oh, you got them?
No, they were in
Can
the
you go toss the
trailer.
trailer with him?
I
Find
go,
them.
what? Toss the trailer? and
Toss
find
the
them?
trailer
You
and
can't
find
find
them.
them? The kiosk signs, the signs that
Yeah, you'll
are,
need to go show it
okay. Just get with me and, yeah, well,
and then get them all replaced.
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, and
'Cause that's
actually,
really
we'll need
irritating.
to expend some more money because a number of, so there's, I don't know, it's 24 or something. I don't remember how many, 24 signs that were made or something like that, but there aren't that many. So so Gerhard was supposed to switch them out every 6 months. And we're probably going to need to reprint a number of those. And I just
Okay.
hope I still have access to them.
Okay, so if you can put all
Yeah.
that together, and if it falls under our procurement, you can go forth and do great
Okay,
things.
as long as Angel notes it in the summary as
Wonderful.
a to-do for me.
Anything
Okay.
else, any supervisors?
Yep, still trying to keep it
Sorry.
brief. This was actually, we got an email during the meeting. There was something that was supposed to be on tonight's agenda, just mentioning it for, not going to discuss it, obviously, but this parcel here, which is surrounded by Oakmark and sagebrush, it was brought to our attention that there's, whether it's insufficient irrigation, but it's a CBD tract that is in pretty sad shape. These two, this one here coming out of Oakmark and this one here coming off sagebrush were the ones that, Mike that was here for most of the meeting identified last 2 months ago for us to address. So.
Okay, and that's in the Jones Home area, so.
It is, but that's the CBD. tract.
Correct.
Yep.
But they're fixing other CDD properties. that
Okay,
they've screwed up.
that's true. Now, it looks like this, the ones that were mentioned were between houses that are already built out, but if we can get that.
But yeah, they're willing, they have already offered to do another house that's already built out. Basically, they have said, yeah, the developer / us didn't do right. So Brad,
Board members, I've already sent this out to all of you. I did not place it on the agenda. It needs to be on the agenda if the board's going to discuss it. I did email the gentleman back and let him know that. And if it needs to be on the agenda next month, we will. But yes, Teresa, you are correct. There are probably things that we're going to relay that can handle this another way. Some of it, he's talking about builder grading and all this stuff. So it doesn't even pertain to you all. So if it needs to be on the agenda, I let him know. I will put it on the agenda next month. If it doesn't, we will relay the proper response to get this resolved with whatever has to do with the CDD.
Thank you, Angel. Yep, just bring up for visibility purposes.
Great.
Perfect.
One last thing, and Angel, this is something else that we discussed prior. I don't know if it's going to be able to be fit into this year's budget. I assume something would have to be cut to make room for it. We had looked at storage services for being able to do videos. Currently, our record retaining services that Infomark uses doesn't have the capacity for doing larger like video files.
Yeah, we don't store video, only audio.
Right, and you're going to look at what the cost of that storage would be. That would be meeting the data retention requirements for.
I can look into some different places. As far as Infomark, we don't have the space available to be able to store that because video takes an absorbent amount of space to do. And we already do store, obviously, the audio. So it would be a third-party source, and I'm happy to get those proposals.
Yep, that's all I have.
Wonderful, thank you. Any other supervisors' requests?
Sorry.
Something discussed at the next meeting that you want to be placed on the agenda, speak now or forever hold your peace? For a month anyway.
Or just let Angel know in the next week.
Right.
Yeah.
Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
I have a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second? I have a motion and a second. All in favor, because I don't want to discuss it.
Yeah, and just to the residents, I apologize. I was not able to take notes this meeting. You'll just have to do without them for this month.
It's about time you get smart.
All right, thank you all very much.
boy.
We're gonna vote. All in favor of adjournment?
Aye.
Aye, all opposed, hearing none, passes unanimously. Thank you, everyone, and hopefully next meeting, not having big stuff on the agenda will go much faster.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mike, nice to meet you. Yeah, like on Butterfly? Yes, yeah, and there are 24 of them, but there were like 24 things printed out to like do a rotation around.
I'll let you know. I come back.
Yeah. Yes. Right. Probably new polycarbonate or something on top of it. I think so. There's like one here. There's I want to say it's maybe 6. It's 4. Yeah. So do I know. Yep. Yeah. So that's what it's probably better to do it through one of us. I mean, that was Mike. He was here with his wife about that. Came to me like this at the end of the last meeting.